Hello, everyone. That's right. We went live a little bit earlier than the scheduled time, so I'll give everybody time to get in here. But we have a lot going on, and I figured I would go ahead, hit the live button. No intro. There's too much to talk about. Trump has arrived at the courthouse in New York. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do a live react to it. I've got my YouTube TV pulled up, so let's go ahead and let's check out all the craziness going on. I told you there would be an emergency CobraCast, and that's exactly what we're doing right now.
I'm terrible at speculating, but my guess would be, because the way prosecutors' minds work is they think if I don't have great facts, let me at least have a bunch of counts. So it might be 34 different instances of Michael Cohen being reimbursed for legal expenses by the former president. If it's 34 discrete fact patterns, 34 different Stormy Daniels and McDougal's, then that may be a challenge. But if it's this
chaos right now going on in New York, we are having people melting down in the streets. MAGA has never been more united than it is right now at this point in time. It has been crazy to watch all of this play out. Let's see here. I don't know if Linda's here yet or not. All your base are belong to Trump. That's now we're going to make that part of this show. We're going to make that part of this show. Snake Pit Rise Up. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Had a great stream earlier on Geeks and Gamers, and now we're live here for CobraCast. And it is a wild day in New York.
It's Hamilton, the play came out.
Like, did you guys see this right here? Let me show you this really quick. Like this, just to give you guys a glimpse of what's going on in New York right now. Okay. This is kind of what we're seeing right here in New York. Okay. These are the people that the Biden administration has decided they want to pander to.
All right, guys, this is Savannah Hernandez on the Trump supporting side of the Manhattan Criminal Court. And we have this woman right here. She is a Biden supporter.
White people
coming and trying to instigate violence with Trump supporters here. She keeps coming up the business. She keeps trying to go on the side. We're the Trump supporters.
Do my white ass, bitch.
And this is what we're dealing with today.
I probably can't show some of that. Let's see. Here we go.
The police are back here trying to keep the
want
peace,
Marjorie
and
Taylor
this
Greene to
woman
molest me.
is standing here as
I
they
want
try to
Marjorie
enter the
Taylor Greene to
area
molest me.
and keeps on trying to tell
I
them
want
that
Marjorie
they're
Taylor
racist
Greene to
and
molest
people.
me.
So welcome to New York City Indictment Day 2023, baby.
That's not the end of it. There's more. Oh, wait. There's more. Okay, here we go. There's plenty more. These people are officially broken. This is what's going on in New York because of Donald Trump, because Trump has broken their brains.
Why are you going in here and calling all the white people in here racist?
No, I'm calling them dumb Republicans.
No, you're calling them racist.
Yeah,
You
because
call the white
all
man
white people are
racist.
racist. All white people are fucking
Why are you
racist.
trying to instigate violence right now?
Because I'm black and I like violence.
Yeah?
I'm an animal.
So
I'm an animal. I'm a black animal. Ah! I'm a black animal. Let's kill all white people. Yeah, baby.
Biden 2024?
Biden 2024.
All right, Joe Biden. These
What is Biden 2024? Biden 2024, baby. Biden 2024, bitch.
Hey, you ever seen performance art? Obviously not, because
This is my manager.
Republicans have no
My fucking manager.
This is called
My fucking manager. Fuck the white people.
Crackheaded Barney.
I'm a motherfucking animal, bitch.
So things are going, things are going well in New York. Clearly very, very level-headed individuals right now with this is what happens when you pander to a bunch of mentally ill people. That is what happens right there. Holy crap.
Taints the jury pool as much as anything else that can be done here. They thought that you could have a political prosecutor run for office on using his power to do exactly what he's done and continue himself for over a year to taint the jury pool. And now that he's filed an indictment, we're going to blow the whistle and say, okay, now due process starts and we all have to be very concerned about tainting the jury. Forget it. I mean, that's ridiculous. Right now, this is a highly partisan, highly political process. We have a progressive prosecutor who has taken a crime that he wouldn't prosecute against anyone conceivably except Donald Trump. He would never bring this misdemeanor against anyone. He's brought it against Trump. It's time barred. He's bringing it against Trump anyway. He's trying to dress it up into a felony by invoking federal law that he doesn't have any jurisdiction to prosecute. And that's how we land in court. That's not the criminal justice system. That's a political persecution.
Martha, I want to turn back to you for a moment here. Regardless of what unfolds and how and in what order today, the former president now finds himself in this unprecedented territory of needing to navigate and fight a legal battle.
Just to be clear, just so we understand, one more time, if Donald Trump today said he was not running for president of the United States in 2024, all this would go away. All of this. And he knows that. And most of you know that. And most of the leftists know that. All of this would go away immediately if he was not running in 2024, because it's not about anything that he's done or being accused of. It's not.
And you know what, Jillian, I just want to reread the message that the former president sent while he was headed down there, which you mentioned earlier. And this is what he sent out on Truth Social. Donald J. Trump, heading to Lower Manhattan, the courthouse, seems so surreal. Wow. They're going to arrest me, in caps. Can't believe this is happening in America. And then MAGA with an exclamation point. I mean, you know, I think that that former President Trump is a person who looks at any given situation and says, how can I make this work? You know, how can I take what's being thrown at me in this case, and how can I make it work for me? And I think that they have done everything they can to try to put the message out there that he is being unjustly persecuted. You just heard from Andy McCarthy a strong legal argument for why that would be the case in this particular set of circumstances. And they have fundraised quite a bit on this issue, and they're even getting support from people who aren't really big supporters.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. And by the way, we got Crazy Clown Town, which why am I not seeing my viewer activity? I saw Crazy Clown Town had dropped 10 D-Day Cobra memberships. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Let me see. I'm trying to find out. Let me see. Why is my stream not working right now? There we go. Okay. So let me refresh, because right now something on the back end on my YouTube is not working. I hope I didn't get flagged for that stupid weirdo video that I had. Let me refresh really quick, see what's happening here. For some reason, now we got it. Hang on. There we go. Okay, Crazy Clown Town gifted 10 D-Day Cobra memberships. Thank you, Crazy Clown Town. Jorge Barracuda. Well, I guess Sav found Linda. See you later. Gerald Armstrong, if they issue a gag order, Trump needs to defy it. And then Clinton House for a 3-month member message. D-Day Cobra, hit up Vets Talking. He's covering this in real time as well. Big fan of yours too. With you, Ryan Suresh, and him, it would be a great conversation. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Let me see. Yes, I did show footage of Linda just a few minutes ago. So I'm not going to do that again because that was some interesting stuff, to say the least. But hello, everyone. Today's CobraCast IRL is an emergency CobraCast. We had a banger Geeks and Gamers daily stream earlier, and we also have Tuesday night's main event tonight. But we have a lot to talk about in terms of everything going on in the world with Donald J. Trump and the arrest and arraignment that is going on right now. New York is just in chaos. It's pure chaos, and people are melting down. Trump has broken so many of these people's brains that it's hard to even process how these people actually get from point A to point B. Look at here. Here we go right here. Look at this clip from MSNBC. Here we go. MSNBC is currently salivating. They think they won. Donald J. Trump is now under arrest. They're so happy.
And I think it's worth taking
Look
a
at the
pause
smirk
for
on
a
her
moment
face.
and
Look at the smirk.
recognizing the moment that we're in that we've never been in before. And that is that when he walked into that courthouse and he was escorted officially, Donald Trump, former president of the United States, frontrunner for the Republican nomination for president of the United States, is now under arrest. We've never seen it before. It is a sobering moment. And even though he's very consistent, sending out social media posts from the car saying again, seems so surreal. Wow, they are going to arrest me. Can't believe this is happening in America. You could shorten that and say that for Donald Trump, perhaps he can't believe this is happening. He did not believe, certainly in this case, from the reporting from inside, that this was going to happen. And it has now happened. Donald J. Trump is under arrest. Andrew Weissman, your thoughts?
These people are so deranged. These people are so deranged that it's not even funny. My goodness, man.
It's a common understanding, Julian, of what arrest is. You know, people think of, getting handcuffs slapped on you on the street. What it really means legally is that your capability to leave is no longer your own. In that sense, he is under arrest now because he has surrendered on the charges, and it'll be an arrest on his future criminal record. What typically happens in this situation is you are put through a process. We understand that this process probably won't include mugshots, photographs, but he'll be fingerprinted. That happens to everybody who comes into the system. The fingerprints will go in.
Congratulations. You've now become a journalist and better than most who actually claim that title. Keep up the good work. Well, I appreciate that. I will, I appreciate the compliment. I will never call myself a journalist. I will continue to refer to myself as just a regular person that turns the camera on and talks. And thankfully a few people listen, but I appreciate that very much.
Because former President Trump is formally indicted, which means that he has a right to counsel at all material moments in his prosecution going forward. His lawyers are obviously not going to allow him to be interviewed. So they will wait in a secure area until an appointed time. He won't be put in a lockup like most defendants would, where they would wait for being presented in court.
Andy, can I just follow up real quick? So does that mean that from this point going forward, Donald Trump is not free of his own volition to leave that courthouse until the judge tells him that he may?
Well, this is another one of these things, Julian, where we have to say, let's hope they don't test the boundaries of that. My view of this all along is that the Secret Service is an excellent organization. The NYPD is probably the best police force in the world. The district attorney's office has good inspectors. What I assume is everybody is cooperating so that everybody gets what they need out of this. The police need to make sure he's processed. The Secret Service need to make sure he's safe. So I don't think the former president is going to try to rock the boat by saying, I think I'm going to get up and leave, which would then put people to the test of what their authority is. I think he's just going to roll with what they're doing. So they'll allow the Secret Service to keep him in a secure location. The NYPD will be involved in that. And when the appointed time comes, they will bring him before a judge. I think we know who the judge is supposed to be, this Judge Merchan. At least that's what the Trump people have put out. And it should be a quick proceeding. Because it's a formal indictment, this will be an arraignment. When people are arrested on a police complaint, they call that a presentment, and you don't have to enter a plea. But here he's indicted, so that will be a formal arraignment. which means he'll enter a plea of not guilty. There isn't an issue of bail because this is a nonviolent offense. Under New York law, he'll be released on his own recognizance. And I guess the importance here is that the judge should begin to set a discovery schedule and a motion schedule. And as a number of my co-panelists here have pointed out, the motion schedule is probably...
This is why I will never stop calling out the left's nonsense. This is why I won't back down. This is why it doesn't hurt my feelings at all when they cry and whine because I talk about Trump all the time. This is why I don't mind burning bridges with the Daily Wire and other of these conservatives that can't seem to stop crying about Donald Trump. Because the most important thing we can do right now, like this man is now under arrest. The 45th president of the United States of America is under arrest. For what? For what? For something that should be at best a misdemeanor that has been elevated to a felony because a New York district attorney who's been paid off by George Soros has decided to abuse his power. And we're just going to sit back and allow this. Would the left allow Barack Obama to be arrested? No. Would they allow Bill Clinton to be arrested? No. But the right's too busy crying and whining over Trump being, Trump's not presidential enough. Trump's not presidential enough. It's just disgusting. So like today on Geeks and Gamers, was asked about Matt Walsh and his kind of dry mentality of like, you know, how he deals with the left and LGBT and trans rights and all that. I don't care about all that. I care about the fact that he acts like a goddamn woman when it comes to Trump. You know, one day he loves Trump, the next day he's upset because Trump was too mean. Trump was too mean. And that's the type of stuff I'm getting tired of. That's the stuff I'm sick of. Trying to unmute here. I can.
About his attitude and his motivation to get Trump. So, you know, what we learned is that after they sort of stepped aside from some of the financial investigation that they were doing, then they brought in this Michael Colangelo, who was a former DOJ attorney, and brought him back onto the case to say, let's go back to that finder. Let's open that up again. Let's go little bit by little bit through all of this, and let's see if we can put together a case against Donald Trump. And it was, as you know, from 2015, this hush money question of, you know, which ledger this financial line of this expenditure was put on and whether it was put in the right place or not is really what this comes down to. And then, you know, to sort of stretch it out and try to make it into a felony, which is, as I said, you know, I mean, I'm thinking about the widow of a New York City police officer who spoke.
And the other thing too is like this really does strengthen that entire argument that DeSantis was tipped off about all of this. DeSantis was tipped off that Trump was going to be indicted on things, and so this is why he decided to basically move away from Trump. And it's like, do you think that they're not going to go after you now? Like they've set a precedent. They have set a precedent that they can go after a Republican president, former Republican president, and current frontrunner for the White House. Do you think they're not going to do that to you next? Because they will. They absolutely will. So again, it to me, it shows DeSantis has that same kind of spineless mentality. He wants to get up there and talk a big game. But when the going gets tough, he bailed on Trump. That's what happened.
Anchor. Brett, amazingly, as this is unfolding, we're waiting to hear from the former president. The White House press briefing is underway. Karine Jean-Pierre was just asked about how President Biden is taking all of this in. She said, in part, this is not something he is focusing on. Obviously, he will catch part of the news when he has a moment, but it's not his focus. What do you make of that?
Not surprising, and that's some of the answers that the White House has provided already, trying to stay far away from this as far as commenting on it. You heard President Biden sidestep questions about it as well. But just 30,000 feet looking at this moment, it is surreal. You know, around the world, other countries have charged, indicted, brought to trial former leaders, France, Italy, Israel, others. But we as a country have never done that. We have never, as a country, done what you're seeing right now. And that is what makes this historic. But as far as the charges that we are likely to see in coming minutes and within the hour or so, it's a lot of people wonder whether it rises to that moment. We'll see what's in there.
I don't want to cut away from this, but there was something else I wanted to show you guys, but I don't want to cut away because I don't know what's going to happen. And so I want to keep this live feed up just so we can see exactly what's ultimately going to happen, because this is a very fluid situation. So there's other stuff I want to show you guys as to what's going on, but I kind of got to keep it locked in
Special
here.
Counsel Jack Smith and his team. That includes the former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Among that 3-judge panel was a Trump-appointed appeals court judge, Greg Katsas. So that's a loss for the Trump team, and they are moving forward with the case about interfering in the elections and also on January 6th. Those plus the documents case at Mar-a-Lago provide real problems, potentially legally, but this moment is the first thing that we're seeing historically of a former president being charged.
We've got some movement in the courthouse. A number of people came in. Of course, there are likely some other cases that are going on as well, or it's just those were other people who were involved in the process. But we do expect, Brett, at some point in the next few minutes, because the arraignment starts in just over 15 minutes, that we will see the former president walk through those doors and toward the camera. Again, we are told that the former president will likely want to make some sort of a comment to the camera there in the courthouse before he goes in for the arraignment. And then if he's allowed to by the judge, make a comment on the way out. Brett, we've kind of kicked this around with Martha and Andy and Jonathan and Trey before.
Yes, it is a circus. It's an absolute circus.
Do you believe, whether constitutionally or otherwise, this judge would be able to impose a gag order on not just a former president, but a current presidential candidate?
I think it's really tough to defend, just big picture and constitutionally. The legal minds will probably have more of a backing on this, but I think it would be tough politically to defend, especially since this is a district attorney who started this whole campaigning on trying to go after.
So if you're just tuning in, Trump is being processed inside the courthouse. He is set to be arraigned in about 15 minutes. We're expecting him to walk out of those doors, and there are some reports that he may make a statement. If he walks out of those doors, he may make a statement. We will see. So that's kind of where we're at. That's why I'm just leaving it on this feed right here. I don't want to click off of this feed because he could walk out at any moment, and I don't want to miss it. So I want to make sure that we get that. So if you're here, thank you. Smash the melee button, meaning like the video. Welcome to CobraCast IRL, the single most important show on YouTube with IRL in the name. The most viewers, the most super chats, the most members, and the best audience imaginable.
Question on the politics side of things, not on the legal side of things. I don't think any of these district attorneys or the special counsel are interacting saying, you go first, no, you go first, or I'm ready to go. That's not how it works behind the scenes, but it is the case that this went first, and it may be the thinnest gruel of them all when it comes to the legal punch that it delivers in the end. So by going first, does it paint others with this, an aura of it's all political? And the answer is yes, from the former president's point of view. He's going to use that to say this fits with the entire narrative of Russia, 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 and all of the things that they've been trying to go after me for years and years. The problem is that some of the substance, at least that as reported, and we believe from sources in some of these other cases, is a little bit more substantive and potentially more problematic legally for the former president.
You know, Brett, we're seeing some people, looks like Secret Service, coming through the door. Typically, when they arrive, it means just a number of moments before the protectee comes in the door. We do know that the president has been 8 floors below where this shot is being taken for the last while since he went into the courtroom. into the courthouse rather, being processed. That would
we are witnessing one of the lowest points we have ever seen, certainly the lowest point for America that I have ever experienced. And you know, we should all be ashamed of the judicial system, the justice system, the political system. We should all just be ashamed of it completely. And Trump will get more support than you could possibly imagine. And this will make him more popular. This will make MAGA more united. And I would urge everybody out there, like, if the next conservative voice out there that tries to talk shit about Trump and start whining and doing the pro DeSantis stuff, I hope they get absolutely ratioed and destroyed on social media, because those are the clowns, the spineless clowns that will continue to put us in this position. Unify and don't let anybody stop the unification behind Donald Trump.
Of New York State court officers who are sort of just protecting this, flanking this entire front entrance. We don't know which way the former president is going to walk out. It's possible he could come out through the main entrance. We don't see his vehicles here, but this is what we've seen here. This is the front entrance of 100 Center Street, which is the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse. And this is, you know, the street started getting blocked here at the courthouse, I would say, probably at this point about an hour and a half ago. And there was lots of sound coming from and people, you know, hitting horns and banging on drums at the park across, more of a festive atmosphere, I would say, than anything. And that has now turned to people just kind of holding on to the park fence and looking towards the front of the courthouse behind me, just to see if they can get a glimpse of the former president, if and when, you know, when he exits this courthouse. I will say, just on a point that Martha and I believe Brett were talking about, you know, it's not just, this is the only criminal matter he's facing here in New York, but he is facing an affront in two civil matters. The New York State Attorney General, Letitia James, is going after Trump for in a $250 million lawsuit for defrauding lenders and others. And there's also a defamation case that's set to be heard in April, as that's set to be
This is just insanity. Really quick, I saw Magic Judy gifted 5 D-Day Cobra memberships. Thank you, Magic Judy. Appreciate you. Salty Source Rex for 20 shared a video of Savannah Hernandez posted on Twitter to your Discord. Funny how the media paints us Trump supporters as violent when the NYPD and media protects those mentally ill people like the one Sav showed. Yes, I'm going to be showing that here in just a little while. Let's see. Yabe says, this is just galvanizing our resolve. Go Cobra. Fishing rods are getting hot. Thank you. Jose M says, like EBS, you are hereby a trusted member of the media. Thank you. Nick S says, Trump 2024, Jeremy is the big gay. Thank you. Let's see. My Gersh says, the nonstop coverage today of Trump reminds me of the Beatles and Elvis. This is a great day for MAGA. 100%. There's Val Winter says, doesn't matter what happens now. The main thing is don't riot. Don't give them a reason to lock you up. Stay safe and peaceful. Good luck, America. Be smarter than the situation. You're 100% right. Very well said. Do not let them invent another January 6th, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to make people angry. They're trying to provoke people, and they want you to get angry. They want the violence. They need the violence, and they are relying on that violence happening so that they can then run nonstop slander over Trump supporters over the next year and a half. That's what they want. Charles W. Jansen says, the problem with the kangaroo courts is that the defendant cannot be innocent and will always be guilty no matter the innocence. That's a concern for sure. Let's see. Let me see what's going on here.
Not long.
And I will catch up on the rest of these. Thank you guys so
I mean,
much.
That could always change if the judge were to say, look, I don't care what you're asking for here or not asking for. I think a gag order is appropriate here. Then Bragg would obviously have to change that or temper the announcement. As we wait for the president to come through those silver doors, let's go back to Andy McCarthy on this. And Andy, when we look at, as Brett Baer was pointing out, the myriad cases against the former president, if Bragg were to be successful here and get a conviction on the former president, that could really set the tone for other cases down the road. But if Bragg lost, or if this was summarily dismissed, that could be a blow to those other cases.
Yeah, John, I don't think it'll end up working that way, though, because it'll be a long time before this case goes to trial. If it goes to trial and doesn't get dismissed before that. And in the meantime, what we've heard in the last month is that they're very close to bringing charges in Fulton County. There was a development in court last week which makes me think that we may see that on or before May 1st. And then as our reporting today has shown,
they are so scared of this man. They are so scared of this man. Pee-wee says, I'll vote for Trump no matter what. I'll help him Shawshank if I have to. I'll crawl through shit to vote for President Trump. Very well said. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. A lot of movement going on. So, Link, what's up? What's up, Jeremy? I'm getting ready to fly to London. I'm so sick and tired of these Democrats. They really want this great nation to be buried to the ground. Trump 2024. We need to bring this nation back to its roots. MAGA Trump 2024. Thank you. I hope you have a safe trip.
Prosecutors
I hope you have a safe trip, buddy. And very well said. 100%. My boy Josh 316 in the house.
Constituency. Again, he ran here in Manhattan to promising.
Josh says, I hope this is the catalyst to the major pendulum swing that we need to get back to normalcy. This is clearly political warfare. This is absolutely political warfare. And yes, you should be angry. You should be pissed off, but you have to understand. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. You have to understand that they are trying to bait all of us into doing something that they can use against us.
I want to bring in Brett for a moment.
It's like me. You guys know what happens when some weirdo comes in my comment section. What happens when some weirdo comes in my comment section and starts hating on me? What do? I take that and I basically monetize these leftist nonsense. They're looking for one person. They're looking for one person to do something so that they can then blow it out of proportion and paint a negative picture of Donald Trump. That's what they're trying to do. Vote for Trump no matter what. 100%, Darian.
And swing voters in a handful of states. How do those swing voters, you feel, perceive these charges in this case against Trump?
We just saw Bragg walk in.
That's a great question.
Yeah, was that Alvin Bragg that we just saw?
Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, it was just a quick glimpse of the District Attorney Alvin Bragg sneaking out of that door. To mention that, I agree with you, Jillian. That is the big question. Right now, it is a unifying effect. When you have Jeb Bush coming out in support, in principle, of Donald Trump because he thinks that these charges are politically based. When you have parts of the Republican Party who are not inclined to back Donald Trump speaking up for him. And you have a unifying effect in the base that you've seen polls go up and fundraising increase in the short term. In the short term, there's a clear shot in the arm as far as attention. The fact that it's wall-to-wall news coverage is, harkens back to the 2015, 2016 timeframe when the president was not president and he was getting this kind of attention on the trail. I think, as time goes on and how these other cases play out, other candidates will maybe look to talk about that, about running for office.
This is why I've said this before. I will say this again. This is why I admire Donald Trump so much. He is a billionaire with businesses all around the world. He could simply be golfing somewhere, living life like a king for the rest of his life. Instead, he is now in a Manhattan criminal court being arrested and soon to be arraigned over the biggest BS charges we have ever seen. They're so ridiculous that even Jeb Bush himself had to admit how ridiculous it was. He doesn't have to be in this position. He's doing it because he loves America and he loves the American people. He's doing this because he has that type of mindset. And that should be admired by every single non-crazy leftist out there. And that's why I'm so sick and tired of people on the right criticizing Trump over the dumbest things imaginable, trying to make this DeSantis stuff happen, trying to make people stop supporting Trump in the name of DeSantis. It's not happening. fall in line and support the only man that can stand up to this.
Resulting in convictions, 50% last year. So it was a 50-50 case in 2022. You had a 1 in 2 shot of beating the rap, if you will, on the felony charge. Now 48% of felonies so far this year have not resulted in conviction. So that gives the president, former president, a pretty good chance at beating this.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, it seems the opposite is, according to our legal analyst, is happening with this case and these charges against the former president. They say Bragg is taking what is essentially, usually, historically treated as a misdemeanor and elevating it to a felony. Also important to point out, John, last year, former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton settled a campaign finance violation over reporting the Steele dossier funding as legal services. She paid a fine for that. She was never arrested.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a look at the cases of Hillary Clinton, when you take a look at the cases of Bill Clinton, you could make a case that a zealous prosecutor could say, you know what, I don't believe the fact that they both should have walked pretty much scot-free. I'm going to bring a criminal case against them, yet that never happened. But in this case, we have a state prosecutor who was saying, you know what, I don't like what happened. I don't care that the feds didn't want to charge him. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this. So this is a precedent-setting case in so many different ways.
In just a few minutes, we might very well finally see those charges, all of them, which will answer some of the questions, whichever way this thing goes, whether it fuels the fire of people who say this is political persecution, or it redeems Bragg, and perhaps he has had access to information, evidence, witness testimony that those who came before him did not. We will hopefully find out in the next few minutes.
We're overhearing some radio traffic here with the NYPD officers who are on scene. We should be, I mean, we're just about 20 seconds away from the scheduled start time of this arraignment. So we should at any moment now see the former president walk through those doors. It will be interesting to see if he comes to the microphones and does have a comment on the way in. I expect, based on what he has been saying about Alvin Bragg and Judge Juan Merchan on Truth Social, that he will probably voice his opinion on what he thinks of this process and how he believes it's unfair, how he thinks that the venue is unfair, and that he is being, in his mind, unfairly persecuted for what transpired. Eric Trump again was saying, and Martha pointed this out as well, that this city has gone, or this prosecutor has gone to enormous expense for a $130,000
well said, guys. Both of those super chats, well said.
Agreement. Now, again, if you're accusing someone of a crime and prosecuting them for a crime, you don't do a balance sheet for it. Prosecution is worth whatever you believe it's worth. But, there are a lot of people who say this prosecution is not worth the paper that it's written on, let alone the expense that the city has incurred because of it.
Let's go ahead and bring back Jonathan Turley now. Jonathan, just a few moments until we're going to have access to those charges. We're hoping that they will be revealed in their entirety shortly after the former president goes into the courtroom. We do have a producer inside.
I don't know if this is taking longer than it was supposed to or not. I'm a little worried about why this is taking so long. But this seems to be taking longer than expected. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm wrong. But regardless, this is a joke in a circus.
Well, one very likely has to be a felony. If they're going to use this bootstrap argument of the New York misdemeanor, they have to bring that misdemeanor back to life. And the only way to do it is to say it was committed to hide a felony. So that would be part of that theory. Look, we've all known the most obvious fact that history is being made. The question we're going to learn in the next few minutes is what type of history? Is it good or bad history? Many of us have no objection to a former president being indicted. That can be a vindication of the rule of law.
I see a few people say, why am I watching Fox?
It can also be the degradation of the
I know this might sound crazy. I don't have the budget to have D-Day Cobra or CobraCast cameras set up in fucking New York. So I'm watching whatever feed I can find. And Fox is better than MSNBC and CNN. So I'm just taking the best option I have.
Hopefully it'll be more than just 34 versions of this rather dubious legal theory that's been bantered about for weeks. Now, the suggestion is that there might be something new in the indictment. What we're looking for is, are there new crimes? Are all of these related to payments around 2016? Are they all based on different variations of this bootstrap argument? Alternatively, do they have some?
I have Right Side Broadcasting pulled up on Rumble. They do not have this angle. And this is the best angle I've found. Now, Newsmax might, but I don't have Newsmax pulled up. But I have Right Side, and they don't have this angle.
It is one thing to be the first person to indict a former president. It's another thing to do it without cause or to do it with political reasons or motivations. So this can be his most famous or his most infamous moment as a prosecutor.
Yeah, again, we don't know what's in that indictment because we haven't seen it. It may be that he's got a very thin case here, that he's tried to weld the misdemeanor to a federal felony and has failed to do it, or there may, as Jonathan Turley suggested, be some other things in there which are much stronger than what has been talked about here. And as we await the president's arrival, and I'm told that these are officers of the court, not NYPD. Sorry for that. They have the same shaped badge or emblem on that the NYPD do. I'm working off a very small monitor with tired eyes as well.
I mean, this guy does kind of look like he's got a beard of shame going, don't he? He's working on the beard of shame already. So this guy right here, hey, maybe he watches CobraCast IRL. Maybe he's a fan
of a reboot of his campaign.
It could be. I think, as Brett noted earlier in the day, when the president announced his campaign to run again in 2024, it didn't get a whole lot of hoopla. It was fairly quiet. And this has clearly created a lot of drama and a lot of attention around the former president. He has said it is not this form of attention that he wanted. He thinks this is very sad, what is happening here. You know, I would just point out or reiterate, I guess, that, you know, this is very unusual that we don't do this here in the United States. I was just looking at information on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who, you know, came back to office with an indictment hanging over his head. That's generally not the way that we do things.
Thank you.
Here in the United
That's
States.
awesome.
But
Appreciate
that precedent has now been broken with this case.
Thank you, Miss Jamie. That is appreciated. You're the best. CobraCast, baby. We're not going to ride the fence here. Hey, you asked Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers or D-Day CobraCast. Hey, what do you think about DeSantis Trump? Hey, I think Trump is the best man for the job, and DeSantis needs to sit the fuck down and fall in line. You hear other people ask that question? Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I like both men, and I hope everything goes okay. And I just hope the best man for the job wins. Fuck that nonsense. Ain't no fence riding around here.
Holding the rule of law is imperative to our nation's long-term success. What do you say about that?
It could be right. I, like you, am waiting to see what's in this indictment, what the facts are that support it. I think Jonathan has said, Professor Turley has said well. And again, I've urged everyone to show some restraint here. I think some of the speculation could be right. Some of it could be wrong. But we'll know here in a few minutes. I do think the great gift that we all as Americans have is that we're presumed innocent until and unless we're proven guilty. And we must all remember that former President Trump, who has been indicted, is presumed innocent until facts are presented and evidence are presented that prove otherwise. And hopefully we learn in this indictment what the at least skeletal evidentiary claims are that the district attorney has. I would also remind everyone that most district attorneys in this country are elected. So they all run on a platform. So I don't take the idea that he ran on a platform of prosecuting former President Trump as anything other than something that DAs do when they run all across the country. Having said that, he best have a case, because if the DA does not have a case here, I think you will hear Republicans and even some Democrats encourage that this case be dismissed or be denied a trial.
Yeah, what you said there, Harold Ford Jr., about innocent until proven guilty is in sharp contradiction to the way that Nancy.
And see, the whole point behind this is people like this. People like this, they don't have the ability to think for themselves. They are told that Trump is a bad person. They are told that Trump is being arrested. They don't have the ability to think critically at all. Okay. So now that they have seen that Trump has been arrested, they don't care about any nuance. They don't care about details because their NPC minds have already told them that that Trump is a bad person. He's literally Hitler. He's a horrible dictator. He needs to be locked up. Most of these fucking idiots think that Trump is being locked up for January 6th because they're that stupid. Because again, even if your mom and dad get a divorce, they will still be brother and sister. Okay. Keep that in mind. Even if they get a divorce, they are still brother and sister.
One should be targeted by the law. And to your question, John, I'm not a believer that no one is no one is so important, or that no one is so supersedes humanity that the legal system can't treat them fairly. If DA Bragg does not have the evidence, does not have the facts, President Trump will, if he goes to trial, will be acquitted. And if there's not evidence to support the kinds of claims that we're all speculating might be in this indictment, then a judge will likely dismiss this. But like many, I'm going to wait to see what's in the indictment before I comment much more on what may happen or what may not happen.
Let's bring back in Brett Baier for a moment here.
I'll be honest, I don't want to hear Brett Baier at all. I don't want to hear anything Brett Baier. Every time Brett Baier comes back and starts talking, it just feels like this is happening all over again. What's going to happen? Hang on. We got people moving. I just don't want to hear Brett Baier. Every time Brett Baier talks, this is how I feel. Damn! Every time Brett Baier talks, I just want to bash my head into a car.
Documents to them.
Right, and that's the report.
God, shut up, Brett Baier. I can't stand Brett Baier. I can't stand his voice. I can't stand how soy he looks. It drives me crazy.
Forward, the documents case.
The documents case. Shut up, Brett Baier. You know, the bad thing about Brett Baier is almost as bad as Little Brian Stelter. Little Brian. You remember Little Brian Stelter, right? I know you guys remember this one. You're going to love this one. Here we go.
On Friday, I was about to go get dinner for my kids when Donald Trump Jr. attacked me in his speech at CPAC. Something about me looking like a gender-neutral potato head.
We wait for the former president to possibly come through those doors. The White House briefing just moments ago, there was an interesting exchange between Karine Jean-Pierre and Michael Sheriff at the New York Times. And there was a number of reporters have been asking her to comment on this indictment and what it means, big picture reaction. And she is, as you noted earlier, kind of punted, as the White House has done. But he was essentially saying, wait a second, you are saying you can't comment on the Trump indictment because it's an active case, but you and the president can discuss have no issue discussing January 6th. And there are 500 active cases in that situation. And they went back and forth, and it was kind of a heated exchange. The reporter Michael Shear saying, don't lecture me. In other words,
Josh dropped 20 gifted D-Day Cobra memberships. Thank you, Josh. Lying Dogface Pony Soldier with a D-Day Cobra membership as well. Thank you. I know I got some super chats to get to, and I promise you I will get to them. Paul Myers has got to tell you, I love it. He's going to write Mein Kampf 2 Ashes Rising. Patriotic Gestalt says, just for FYI, lots of hot girls in the Trump area. Trump, man, he brings all the ladies.
He was
man.
on Sean Hannity's show.
Trump brings all the ladies.
Apparently the president is heading up. Former president is heading up to the courtroom now. I've just been told. So, Andy, why don't we delay that request for just a second? I'll just say that the former president was on Hannity's show. Hannity said, "I can't see you doing that." And Donald Trump said, well, I had the right to do it. And I'm not quite clear, and that's why I wanted to ask Andy about this, whether or not he does actually have the right, after being president, to look through potential classified documents, unless he has previously declassified them. But he maintained that he had previously declassified them. So that's an argument that we can take up in a few moments. But again, I was just advised that the former president is heading up to the courtroom now So any moment now, Jillian, we should see him come through those doors.
And if he does stop to speak to cameras and to the American public, we'll see him there. If he doesn't, just a few steps from that door into the courtroom. We will then have to wait to hear from the former president until after he is arraigned. We will hopefully hear him. He has expressed to his team as recently as this morning that he wanted to address the events of the day himself, personally and directly, John.
All right, well, here comes his legal team right now. They are on the way in, which means that he will be right behind them, I would imagine. Which one was his attorney? So let's not forget that Alvin Bragg not only is he setting precedent for bringing criminal charges for the very first time in this nation's history against a former president, but he's taking a case. And this is the hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels back in 2016, just before the election. He's taking a case.
There he is.
Feds said they wouldn't prosecute. Here comes the former president. Let's just listen into this.
President Trump, will you come speak to us, President Trump?
He's pissed. He's pissed.
Yeah. And he went right into the courtroom.
Mad as
He
hell.
was going to come up to that camera, but change of plans to what we had been advised.
He's pissed. He
He just walked straight in there. So again, we're told that there is a still photographer who is in the courtroom who will be allowed to publish one photograph of the president there before the judge.
He was mad. It's rare to see Trump like legit not be able to work the room. He's mad, and he should be.
Made a request to the court that live cameras not be allowed to cover the proceeding because it would create a circus-like environment. Let me bring Martha in on this because, Martha, you and Brad are very astute politically. You would think on the one hand that former President Trump, who loves to do literally everything in front of a camera, would want the nation to see what was going on to bolster his position that he's been unfairly persecuted. But then at the same time, if you see him say not guilty, that is an image for the ages that his opponents would likely try to exploit.
Yeah, indeed it is, John. I thought that the former president looked very somber.
I think we have. Let me hear what they have to say. Hang on.
That door, I think there's no underestimating the significance of what he has just been through. Somebody who has been the president of the United States of America was just fingerprinted and booked and processed to head into a courtroom to be arraigned. I mean, this is a moment that no doubt is having a heavy weight on him. We know from everything he has said, he feels unjustly arrested in this case, and he will have his moment to speak. He's going to speak tonight at 8 o'clock from Mar-a-Lago. As Andy McCarthy made clear, he will be released on his own recognizance after this process that's underway now. And we're about to find out the indictments that are part of this case and how many of them are felonies. But I think that the weight of this moment appeared to be on the former president in a very significant way, as we just saw him walk through that hallway, John.
Definitely not somber. Get the hell out of here with that.
The next time we might conceivably hear from the former president is when he comes out of that courtroom, which should be sometime around 3 in the early part of that hour. He declined to speak right now, which we thought he may. The reality here is that if a gag order does come down during this arraignment, the president might not be able to speak at all from inside the courtroom.
Yeah, Jillian, that's a good question. I think it's something that we have not heard yet, and there's no indication yet that the judge is going to install that gag order, but we'll know shortly. I just want to go back to that image of former President Trump walking out and kind of glaring at the reporters as they said, "Will you come talk to us?" And that moment of walking into the courtroom, he is standing across from the district attorney, Alvin Bragg, who's bringing forward this indictment and these charges. And this is a surreal moment, a surreal image that we'll see from inside the courtroom in those still photographs, as John mentioned. Politically, we talk a lot about politics, but this is, personal, and this is dealing with, and the photographers are now coming out after having
Well, yeah, of course it's personal. It's absolutely personal, but it is a political as well. iCanalyst becomes I think the very first member / supporter on D-Day Cobra Rumble. So thank you for that, iCanalyst. I appreciate that. Yes, we are live on Rumble on D-Day Cobra. And it says, hey, Jeremy, you should check out Michael Knowles. He's a Daily Wire commentator that often has different takes than Shapiro and Walsh, and he's a fan of Trump and enjoys his meanness. I've seen a little bit of Michael Knowles. Definitely aware of Michael Knowles for sure. But thank you for that. That's awesome. So I appreciate it. Moral Object says, I can't wait to see the charges against George W. Bush, Obama, and of course, Clinton. Yeah. I mean, well, that's the whole problem here, is that if you want to talk about criminals that have been in the White House, Donald Trump is the least guilty of any of them. In fact, the only president, I think Jack Posobiec tweeted this out, the only president in our lifetimes that has not started any new wars is the one that they're indicting. Think about that one. Think about that one real quick. Bo Zeke says, no, the left won't do the same to DeSantis. He's really an establishment politician like them who just talks like he's MAGA. He would be no different than John Kasich or Jeb Bush as president. That's a fair point. Let's see. Kate Rhodes says, this is a turning point for this country. The question is, will it be the act that sparks Trump's comeback, or is this the end of the republic? I think Trump 2024 is in better shape now than it's ever been. And I don't think you're stopping MAGA at all. That's where I'm at with it. And this is a severe mistake on every level for them. They are going to justify it in every way they possibly can. I've even heard people say that the Democrats are doing this with the intent to get Trump the nomination just so they can beat him in November. That's the justification they're going through with all of this. It's not going to happen. And so this will be a massive backfire beyond belief. Now, it looks like we've got about maybe, again, Trump could walk out of those doors at any moment in time, but it could be another 10 or 15 minutes. We'll see how things pan out. And then we may get a statement from him. We may get a comment from him. We're waiting to see. Let's see. Patriotic Gestalt. I got that one. Beach Lover says, ask Ryan to join you. I think that was earlier, right? Yes, that was earlier. That was Trump walking through right there, just so we're clear.
Weight of this prosecution. Now, he obviously has 3 torpedoes in the water. One hit, which
I would say, seeing it again, I think that's a mixture of he's mad, but he's also just confident. That's how I'm looking at it. So that was a replay of earlier for people that are tuning in. That was a replay from earlier. Now he's being arraigned as we speak right now. But I think Ryan's tied up right now. Speaking of that, Gay Ryan for 5 says, you think they'll put him in carbonite and give him to Jabba the Hutt? Tommy H, if we don't see his face, could be a double. Well, we got that one answered. B-Wee says, I got that one. Thank you, Link, for the 50. Josh for the Hundy. Jimbo, Trump's speech after this should be the Steiner Math promo. Just replace Samoa Joe with Bragg. Well said. Me Lord Grand Darth Starweaver. Trump 2024, MAGA needs to split from the GOP and form its own party. That would destroy the GOP for sure. Honestly, MAGA is the GOP at this point in time. Darian Murphy voting for Trump no matter what. Brad Mann says, I'm just saying, when we peacefully protest, we lose. The Tea Party, the Second Amendment rights in Virginia, etc. Meanwhile, the left always wins. What's the difference in protest styles? I think the left is more unified. I've always said that the left is more unified. So when you have the left asked about Trump, they all have the same answer. And it's all TDS based, and they all unify. And when they unify, that message goes out to the average people out there, and they hear, so-and-so thinks this way. So-and-so thinks this way. There's a lot of people in the middle that aren't plugged into everything. They're not. And so So on the right, when you constantly have people that are fence sitters and cowards who can't answer simple questions because they want to make sure that they stay in good graces with whoever the nominee will, what they think the nominee could be, that's one of the main reasons that this happens. You also have cowards that feel like they have to denounce Trump in some way, shape, or form just to make the lefties happy, to say, well, I don't agree with everything Trump says. And it's like, yeah, no, I don't agree with everything anybody says. But they talk about all these negatives with Trump, and then they go, well, there could be a better nominee out there. Or I've heard, and Steven Crowder was asked about it, and he's like, oh, I like both DeSantis and Trump, and I'm gonna just wait and see how it plays out. It's like, no, the answer is Trump. Trump's the answer. That's the only answer. And any other answer just shows that you are a fence-sitting coward who can't have the balls to say what needs to be said. Trump is the answer. End of discussion. Why is that so hard for people to answer? Tim Pool, one day he loves Trump and Trump is his favorite president, and the next day he's crying saying Trump is retiring and DeSantis is the guy. It's just too many cowards on the conservative side. Way too many. And that's the bigger problem. And I'm tired of it. Quit being scared to answer basic, simple questions that are obvious answers. Because apparently these people have to apologize. Let's hear what they're saying.
There. The problem he has is that the grand jury issued a subpoena, or the Justice Department did on behalf of the grand jury, demanding that they surrender all of the documents that had classified markings that were in former President Trump's possession in Mar-a-Lago. In early June, 2 of his lawyers met with a Justice Department official and 3 FBI agents, gave them a package of about 38 documents with classified markings and a sworn statement that said they had done a diligent search and that there were no other documents left at Mar-a-Lago. So the issue is, if he was looking through boxes and looking through documents after that, it's not a question of whether he...
And I know we're going to get a lot of like, oh, we're all supporting Trump today and tomorrow and for the next few weeks. There's going to be a ton of support. Oh, yeah, we love Trump. We have to unify. We'll see. We'll see if that same energy is there in 6 months or whatever. Because right now, there's a monetary value to being conservative and supporting Trump at the moment. There's a monetary value to it. And there's no like right now, those same people that have been sucking up to DeSantis, it doesn't play well. So they're not going to play that card because it doesn't play well, because that's all they care about is what plays well. And right now it don't play well to talk good about DeSantis versus Trump. It plays well to just talk about Trump and praise Trump and support Trump. We'll see how they act in 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now.
Good part of all this. The Espionage Act does not refer to classified documents. It refers to national defense information. So whether something has classified markings on it or not, and whether it was in fact classified, is evidence that it is national defense information, but it's not dispositive. So this whole business about whether he declassified them or not, there's not any evidence that's known at the moment that he did declassify them. But in terms of the Espionage Act, they just need to be national defense information, whether they have classified markings or not.
So what we're seeing on the screen right now, Andy, just want to bring your attention to it, is the photograph that was allowed in the courtroom. There you see the president in the middle with his defense team. On the far left is Todd Blanche, who is the newest member of his legal team, who was announced yesterday. He gave up his job at a very prestigious Manhattan law firm in order to take on the defense of the former president. He described it as, quote, an opportunity I should not pass up. He said, obviously doing this as a partner at Cadwalader, which is his law firm, was not an option. So I had to make the difficult choice to leave the firm. So Todd Blanche there on the left, who also defended Paul Manafort, has made a big decision, big career decision, to leave his very prestigious law firm, at least temporarily, to defend the former president. Susan Nichelis is there beside him, in between him and the former president, and then Joe Tacopina on the right-hand side. So there is our one and only photograph from the courtroom. And Brett, let's go to you. What kind of impact does that have on this presidential candidate, seeing that photograph? Looks pretty benign to me.
Yeah, pretty benign. I think, you can make a lot out of the moment and it just being a moment of a former president, the first time in a courtroom facing an indictment. It is not a mugshot. I think there was some thought that a mugshot could be used two ways by his supporters and on T-shirts and mugs and everything else to back up this president. I think that's what, his supporters look at this as a political prosecution and one in which really rallies a lot of people about two systems of justice. That's what they talk about. The people who are backing District Attorney Bragg say, no one's above the law, and they're moving forward with these charges, and he will face his day in court, and he's innocent until proven guilty. I think they're on both sides of the political spectrum, people who go over the edge. This is a moment, and we're likely going to see, as Andy mentioned,
So right now he is in the courtroom being arraigned. We are waiting for him to leave the courtroom, and then he's apparently going to walk out. And then I don't know if we're going to get a statement from him. I don't know. Knowing Trump, I think he's probably going to wait and build it up for his speech tonight from Mar-a-Lago. If in fact he's able to go back to Mar-a-Lago, I'm assuming that he will be able to. So there's not going to be a mugshot. And there's not going to be any, there's not going to be a perp walk. So you're not going to get the handcuffs and all of that. That's not going to happen. So we're kind of waiting to see exactly how this all plays out. And then there could be, look, I may have to end up doing a CobraCast after Tuesday night's main event tonight. So we are going to have Tuesday night's main event over on the Geese and Gamers channel tonight. It's going to be a huge banger. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. So we're going to be talking all geek culture stuff right there. And then I might do a CobraCast afterwards. So we'll see. We'll see. But we're just kind of waiting at this moment in time. And again, this will be the biggest backfire in the history of politics. No doubt about it. This is not going to stick. Trump's not going to see any jail. None of that. So, and again, most of these charges are just insane. Just don't wear yourself out, Jeremy. I've already had people commenting. Somebody super chatted, said, I'm looking rough. Who was that? Somebody said, Mandy says, you're looking a little rough, Jeremy. Hope you're okay. Just working nonstop, but doing great. Yeah, just always working. Always working.
Question of whether or not this should be dismissed, I would expect is going to be a very forceful argument that he's going to make here as you look at this team, because he is now clearly in the number one spot now that this is an extraordinarily serious situation. But in terms of real quick, Jillian, how this all fares as you go to 2024, we're going to have a lot between now and then that is going to transpire. So this is really just chapter one here in this story that will be quite fascinating to watch over the next several months.
Andy McCarthy, on this idea of a motion to dismiss, any defense attorney worth their salt always introduces a motion to dismiss at a hearing like this. I expect that that's not something that the judge would grant. And then back to something that we talked about a while ago, but some folks may have tuned in since. What about this idea of a change of venue? Because the former president is arguing that this is not a fair venue to him, that the judge has bias against him, that the prosecutor has bias against him, and that the entire borough of Manhattan has bias against him. What do you say?
Well, I think what will happen today, John, is that there'll be nothing more than a scheduling done for all of these kinds of pretrial relief, pretrial motions that will be made. I don't have a lot of confidence that they'll get a venue change here, and I don't have a lot of confidence that it would make much of a difference. I think if the Trump defense is going to succeed here, there won't ever be a jury trial. But if there is a change of venue, the change of venue would probably come with the same prosecutor and the same judge moving venue. So yes, you'd get a different jury, but judges and prosecutors tend to have a big impact on how a case goes. So I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for that to be granted. I think the best argument that the former president has going for him here is that these
Andy, it's Jillian. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We just got word into the newsroom, thanks to our producers on the scene, that the former president has officially pleaded not guilty to New York criminal charges in this court hearing that just happened a moment ago. Official plea from the former president of not guilty. What's your response?
Well, he's been indicted, so this is an arraignment, and it's a formal requirement that a plea be entered. So it's not surprising that he has pled not guilty.
All right, but it's another moment in a series of historic moments here. Jonathan Turley, again, we take a look at this and we think, oh, it's Donald Trump and he's before a court. A lot of people figured that at some point in his life this was going to happen, but he's a former president of the United States, and other than Ulysses S. Grant being arrested for driving his horse and buggy too quickly, and the charges were later dropped, this has never happened in the entire storied history of the United States of America, Jonathan.
No, and you're making him a bigger legend. You are making him a bigger legend day by day. Trump is going to go down as the biggest legend in the history of politics. He just will. Like, he's running in 2024. He's the Republican frontrunner by a mile. He's going to be the nominee, and he's going to win 2024. And he's all going to do that with all of this over his head, and he's going to be able to use all of this. He's going to use every single bit of this to destroy the left's brains once again.
Donald Trump. And that itself really slaps at the underlying principles of our legal system. You know, he should not have to resign from a firm to represent a former president of the United States. But that's the age of rage that we live in. So the president has now pleaded not guilty, and the court is going to have to decide if this case should go forward at all. That will be the first threshold legal question. The second question will be, where should the case go forward if the first motion is denied? Now, as Andy said, I expect that motion for a venue change will be denied. I think this is a stronger case than most. Even though you end up with just the same judge and prosecutor potentially, you do end up with a different jury pool. And for me, the problem here is not just the prosecutor running on bagging Donald Trump. It's the fact that he was elected by voters in this district in part for that reason. And that creates this very troubling appearance for many people in the country. So the question is, does the judge want to try to make some type of gesture that this is not a canned hunt, that, you know, we're not just allowing a prosecutor to bring in someone that he promised that he would charge for some unknown crime.
Hey, Jonathan,
so we'll see that unfold in the days to come.
Jonathan, hold that thought for a second. Brett Baer has got some information about the charges and the indictment, which was just unsealed. Brett?
Well, just coming out from inside the courtroom, it's 34 counts of falsifying business records. And it says first degree. Now, I'm not getting the specifics of how this breaks down or if they're reading each one by one, but it is the number is 34 counts. And we could talk to falsifying business records in first degree. And as far as what cases, whether it's just Stormy Daniels or expands to the other case we were talking about, Karen McDougal and the National Enquirer, we don't have that detail yet. But we can talk about that maybe with Jonathan Turley and Andy about the falsifying business records, and that it doesn't appear that there is any other avenue that the district attorney has gone down here.
Because they got
Andy,
nothing.
What do you make of that, what Brett just laid out? What can we read into the fact that there are 34 counts of falsifying these records in the first degree?
Well, obviously, if it's in the first degree, then we're in this posture where I presume, without having read this, that they're saying that there's another crime that he's committed that he was trying to conceal, which is what makes it a felony. It's always the fact that he's using the grand jury indicated that he was pursuing felony charges. I presume he could have filed a criminal information without the grand jury. Bragg could have by himself, had there not been felony charges. Difficult to make a judgment without having read it, but I would just say if it's based on what we already knew, I think, Trey Gowdy talked before about count stacking, which is the kind of thing the Justice Department actually has guidance telling federal prosecutors not to take a case where you have thin evidence and try to camouflage with quantity of charges what you lack in quality of evidence. And what I fear here is that they've taken what's essentially one transaction and figured out ways to compartmentalize pieces of it. So, for example, if you have one payment to Michael Cohen where he put in an invoice, they gave him a check, and then they made a business record entry, you could turn that into 3 counts, even though it's one transaction. And the whole thing is only one transaction because it's repayment for a debt. So I fear that what's happened here is that they have done exactly what the Justice Department warns abusive prosecutors not to do, which is take something that is a single unitary transaction and turn it into multiple transactions in order to create the impression that the defendant is a serious offender.
Yep, that's it.
Let me just read the statute here in terms of the charges against the former president. According to New York state law, section 175.10, a person is guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree when he commits the crime of falsifying business records in the second degree, and when his intent to defraud includes, as you were mentioning, Andy, an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. So, Jonathan Turley, I take it that the inference here is that the financial crime was meant to was done in such a way to conceal a crime of an illegal campaign contribution. Is that where we're going here?
Well, that is the assumption. That's been the second crime that's been discussed for weeks. That was the bootstrap theory that we've been talking about. So this does appear to confirm that there's not a new crime in the sense of a non-falsifying business records crime. The question is there any variation on what that felony might have been in terms of the motivation of committing the first offense? If all of these counts refer to payments that were made in 2016, then we will know those are related to Daniels and McDougal. If that's the case, then this would be.
This has already been federally looked at. They looked at it at the federal level and it got thrown out because there was nothing. This is not going to stand. It will not stand. They are trying to put an image out there to the normies, to the people that don't do any thinking or have any type of critical thinking whatsoever, to just go, oh, well, Donald Trump was arrested. He was arrested for January 6th, right? He was arrested for January 6th because of the incitement of insurrection, right? Because that's what a lot of these people think. A lot of people think he was arrested for that because if you notice, January 6th narrative, as soon as the January 6th narrative falls apart, they abandon ship and they indict Trump. As soon as that falls flat on its face, the indictment of Donald Trump drops. They have put him in court. That's all this is about, is making people in the middle believe there's something going on that's not going on. This is about the optics that they think they have. That's what this is about right here. That's it.
A felony in the first degree is a federal election charge. We have a very significant threshold question that will face the court. That has never been done, to our knowledge, in any case in history. It not only speaks to selective prosecution, it suggests exclusive prosecution to just Donald Trump. And so the
quick
court will
follow-up
have
on that,
a very
Jonathan.
significant issue.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're coming up against the end of the hour. I want to make sure I get some clarity from you on this. When you talk about this has never happened in history, we know that former political candidates, presidential candidates, including Hillary Clinton, have paid financial penalties for campaign finance violations. Is embedded within these charges, again, we have not seen them yet, but we are getting early reports about them. Can we now assume safely that Bragg is making and the grand jury is making the case in these charges that Trump did have the intent to defraud American voters. That is definitively what they are charging him with here. Is that what differentiates this?
Yeah, I don't think we can make that assumption until we read the indictment and see what it was that he was allegedly trying to conceal. What was that other crime? We've only heard of one in all of these leaks and discussions, and that's the federal election violation. That would be
But can
really
we assume that that is the
problematic
case that Bragg and the
See, the Democrats are obsessed with preying upon the mentally ill. They prey upon people that are mentally ill, and they are trying to manipulate their minds. And so right now we live in a world of social media where people just read a headline. They just read a headline and they typically take that headline and they run with it. And they go, oh, well, I saw this headline, so it must be true. And so that's happening all over the place. I mean, do you know how many of these people that hate me, they will see my thumbnail or my title for my video without watching it, without getting any of the details, and they just assume that everything in the videos, the everything in the video was just me talking about the few things I said in the title. And they just run with that because they are stupid, because they are very, very stupid people, especially the ones on the left. These people are really struggling mentally, and the left just preys upon that. And so right now they just want their headlines that Trump has been arrested, Trump has been arraigned. That's all they want. That's all they needed. And they've gotten that now. But MAGA is more united than it's ever been.
Seconds wrap up on your thoughts so far.
Yeah, I'd just like to respond to one thing Jillian just raised. Even if they regarded this as a campaign violation, even if the campaign did, even if everybody agreed that it was, which it wasn't, the non-disclosure agreement was days before the 2016 election. They would not have had to report this until well into 2017. So the idea that he defrauded the American people into electing him just doesn't hold up tenably in terms of what the timeline was.
interesting. Brett, before we're out of time here, I want to make sure that we get your final thoughts on what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think we'll finally have all the details very shortly, but you're looking at counts that include this falsifying business records and a conspiracy count. It looks like it covers Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal and this federal election law. I think we're going to get all the details very shortly, but you see the former president there pleading not guilty, and he'll definitely have something to say shortly.
Yeah, there may also be some breaking news from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals regarding an order for Stormy Daniels to repay attorney fees to the former president. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Well, thank you for being with us on this historic occasion. I'm John Roberts.
I'm Jillian Turner. The story with Martha McCallum begins right now.
All right, so we'll let them do their stupid intros, their outros. Oh, okay, so they're just going to cut right to it. So here we go.
McCallum, good to have you with us on this day.
I think in the next any minute now, I think we're expecting Trump to walk out.
Flanked by his attorneys inside the courtroom, he has pled not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. We are told that he would like to have a moment to speak to the media, and that could happen at any time after this arraignment wraps inside that Manhattan courtroom. And as I said, that image that you see on the right-hand side of your screen with Todd Blanche, Susan Nichelis, and Joe Tacopina surrounding the president as he sits at the defendant's table in the courtroom just moments ago. So obviously, as we have said quite a bit today, but it's worth repeating, this is a historic moment. We have never seen this before in the United States of America, a former president under indictment, under arrest, and now being charged with 34 counts of felonies. Former Attorney General Bill Barr is standing by with us. Britt Hume is also here to weigh in momentarily. First, we go to national correspondent Brian Yennis, who is live at the courthouse where we expect shortly the president will be exiting soon. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Martha. Well, that's exactly right. There are two big questions right now ahead of us. One, when will the former president come out? It should be at any moment. And will he say anything to the cameras? He did not say anything walking into court. What will he say now that he knows the charges? The second question is, knowing more about this indictment. We know the indictment was unsealed, but at this point, it's about the press, all of us in the world, getting a hold of it. We have many members of the press who are inside of that courtroom, but they were barred from having their phones and their laptops on. So that is why there is somewhat of a delay for us to understand the full extent of this indictment and the charges. So as soon as we have our producer, Jake Gibson, who is inside that courtroom, as soon as he gets out, we'll speak to him and he'll tell us more about what he saw inside. But at the moment, we can only go off of the photo and off of what has been reported by Reuters, which is saying that the former president has been charged with 34 felony counts for falsifying business records. This is in violation of Section 175.10 in the New York State Code. It's falsifying business records is a felony in the first degree when someone commits the crime of falsifying business records in the second degree with the intent to defraud, and it also includes an intent to commit another crime. And this, on its surface, is not a surprise to all of us who have been following this, in the sense this is what we had expected. These types of charges, at this point, it's about the underlying details. Is this about the former adult film star Stormy Daniels? Is this about the former Playboy model Karen McDougal? We'll find that out shortly, but as of now, 34 felony accounts in the first degree, and when he comes out, we shall hopefully, we'll hear from the former president. He'll walk out of the courthouse. We expected that to be about now, but they did start.
I personally hope he doesn't say shit. Not now. I want him to wait till later. Wait till later. Don't give the media anything. But of course, same time, man, if he does talk, I'm going to be happy to hear from him. But I just hope he just doesn't even give him anything. Hell with him.
We're going to be watching that with great interest here together. Let's start with bringing in Fox News chief political analyst Brit Hume. Brit, your thoughts as we watch all of this playing out in this.
The most shocking part of this is Brit Hume is still alive. That's the most shocking part of all of that.
Position of an American citizen watching this, someone not dedicated to Trump nor a Trump hater. Worried about the world, worried about Russia and China becoming more united, worried about the stalemate in Ukraine, worried about inflation and the possibility of recession in this country, worried about the lawlessness at the border and the lawlessness on our streets. And he looks at this and he says, well, we're going to have an election in a couple of years. Who are we going to get? Well, Joe Biden is apparently going to run again. He's the person under whose watch these circumstances I just described arose. He's also going to be, 82 years old when Election Day rolls around. Many people think he's too old, that he's senescent, if not utterly senile. And on the other hand,
all right, I don't care about Bret Hume. I really don't. I really don't care what he has to say. Timothy Smith says, today is a sad day as we sit and watch our justice system be politically weaponized. Now is time to be more united and steadfast in our work to assure our rights are preserved. I 100% agree with you, Timothy, on that. And I am disgusted, sick to my stomach watching all of this play out. And again, that's why I get so angry when I think about all the anti-Trump stuff that I've heard on the right from the conservative side. That's what drives me crazier than anything. You can't help the left. The left, their brains are broken. They are done. If you're a crazy leftist, you can't be helped. You're gone. There are people in the middle that can be convinced of what's going on. But when you're constantly crying and whining about Trump and you can't just stay the course, that's what's driving me crazy with the people on the right. And again, I'm not a Republican. I'm just a guy who voted for Trump. Okay. And I got common sense. That's it. That is it. How do you become a paid member on Rumble? iCanalist is in the chat, or he was earlier. But I think if you, I don't know. I don't know exactly how you become a member. Oh, it looks like it's, so if you hit the dollar amount over there for a super chat, it gives you some options below. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. But we are live on Rumble. And if you guys want to go check us out over there, we appreciate it. Shout out to the Rumble audience right now. Yes, both sides hate Trump. Exactly. Again, to recap, as I said last night on CobraCast, Trump beat he beat 3 political dynasties. Okay. He beat the Bush crime family. All right. He beat the Obama transgender family. He beat the Clinton crime family. He defeated the mainstream media. He defeated Hollywood. He defeated big tech. He defeated the rhinos. He defeated the Democratic Party. He defeated all of them in 2016. He defeated all of them in 2016. And it drives them
segment
crazy.
of the Republican base, and the feeling of alienation and disgust and distaste that those people will feel. Now, look.
Jake, did you drop a 20 earlier? My bad, Jake. Jake, right here. The Democrats have set the precedent. Let's arrest George W. Bush, Obama, Bill Clinton, and Hunter Biden. Let's do this. We can now abuse the judicial system to take our political opponents out. It's disgusting and dangerous. It is. And it sets a horrific precedent. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate that.
I could bring a case, but maybe it would be wiser not to. One wonders about the wisdom of this case, and certainly one wonders even also about the wisdom of some of these other cases that may be brought.
Yeah, it's a great point. And my mind goes back to James Comey standing in front of the cameras with a long list of, I think he used the word reckless behavior on the part of Hillary Clinton back then, and then said, but no prosecutor would bring these charges. And I think, it does feel like there are not, we've talked a lot about adults in the room and looking at the big picture of the country and what's best for the country overall. It feels like that's a layer that we don't really operate in a whole lot anymore, Brett.
No, I agree with that. And I think, this would be a moment where statesmanship would be called for. It seems, alas, to be somewhat in short supply.
Indeed, it does. Do we have the soundbite, you guys, from that press conference, or we're not going to cut away to that because we may be watching him walk out. We'll get to that later. Britt, thank you. Stand by for us.
I would like to mute it and talk to you guys, but he could be walking out any moment, and I don't want to miss that.
You've been watching it closely this afternoon as well, Bill. Your thoughts? Welcome. Good to have you here, and your thoughts on this.
Well, my thoughts are pretty much the same as they've been for the last week or so. I haven't heard anything that suggests there's something new in this indictment that wasn't anticipated. If there is, then we'll have to respond to that when we see it. But I think what Brett said is absolutely right. Prosecution should always involve a measure of discretionary judgment where you weigh the public interest as a whole. And even before I became Attorney General the second time, I said in relation to Mueller's investigation that before we go off on a president, a sitting president, or a former president, there should be clear evidence of a real crime. It shouldn't be a debatable crime. The evidence should be strong. And also, this is not just by virtue of his prior office, but he's a candidate in the current election. So this is a charging decision that affects our current national politics. And judgment there, it seems to me, and prosecutorial discretion should commend caution in this circumstance. And as I've said, this appears to be just a pathetically weak case that is, I think, demonstrably wrong on the law, which explains why the Department of Justice, even after I left office, has never pursued this idea of.
Well, and again, and this is the part where you're going to see people that are traitors and cowards, and because it's convenient, they're going to rally around Trump and they're going to talk about how ridiculous this is because it's convenient for them. But we all know Barr, and we know what he's about.
When he looks at whether or not to dismiss this case, if he feels that it is, in your words, pathetically weak, what goes into that part of this process, Bill?
Well, I think it'll be largely a legal judgment as to whether there's really probable cause to believe that this falsification of records was done to defraud anybody. And second, whether or not this involves the campaign finance law, which I don't think it does. And I think any idea that this defrauds the voters, as Andy just said a moment ago, is simply wrong. That doesn't create a crime.
But so if that's the case, and you're Judge Marchand, who has successfully prosecuted another financial case in the Trump, with the Trump organization. And you look at this.
I see you guys in the chat. Everybody's talking about the female cop. I mean, she's all right. I mean, she ain't that great, but hey, whatever works for you, man.
He exercises his role as a judge and serves as a screening mechanism for this kind of overreach by a prosecutor. I'm not optimistic he will, but we'll see.
So the other issues that we expect to be brought up here are change of venue. Jonathan Turley said, although that is usually something that is not taken, not acted upon, he said there might be an argument for that here. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought that was one of the stronger arguments. I agree with Jonathan.
Chat is killing me, dude. Chat is killing me. I love it.
Of some of these other processes that are underway. And the one that you have said looks the most problematic for the former president is the Mar-a-Lago classified document case that's under Jack Smith, the special counsel right now. Talk to us a little bit about your thinking on that one.
Well, I think the issue there isn't the taking of the documents. I think the issue there is what happened after the department asked for them back, which they are government property, and also then subpoenaed them. And from the government's actions, I believe that they probably have evidence of efforts to mislead the government, and they're trying to determine whether Trump was behind that and was involved in obstructing their efforts to obtain the documents. And that would be viewed as a fairly serious.
All right, I've got a Trump Jr. tweet. Breaking, the Ninth Circuit just awarded Trump $121,000 in attorney fees from Stormy Daniels. Order just released. This is in addition to the roughly $500,000 she already owes him. LOL. Glad she's out there saying her T-shirt sales are booming. She'll be able to afford to pay Trump. That is from Donald Trump Jr. right there.
And then Pence involved with document problems. So that would cut in favor of exercising discretion, because otherwise you would have the appearance of two systems of justice and two different standards.
But it sounds like you're suggesting that the difference is the issue of obstruction, not of having documents in your possession.
Right.
So if there was manipulation in the form of this letter that went back to the archives.
There's a tweet right here, and I can't share it on my screen, but it's like, because I've got this up, but it says Donald Trump. It says Donald Trump is so great that courts keep ordering a stripper to pay him.
As we can tell, right?
That's right. And the argument for pursuing it within the Department of Justice would be the argument, look, how can we protect all our national secrets and require that our employees and people involved in sensitive programs protect the information if we turn a blind eye to something like this? So I'm sure there's going to be some pressure to pursue that case if they have strong evidence.
And we do have, and this was from earlier, but the daughter of the judge overseeing the Donald Trump case worked on the Biden-Harris campaign. I know a lot of you are already aware of that, but it just continues to show how deep this corruption goes. And so again, if you're one of these people that are celebrating this right now, just understand you are celebrating a broken system. You are celebrating corruption. You are celebrating the very thing that you claim you stand against. Oh, Donald Trump's so corrupt. Donald Trump's so mean. He's got so many things he needs to be arrested for. The judge overseeing the case daughter worked on the Biden-Harris campaign, and you want to talk about Trump corruption? Get the hell out of here.
I want to bring you back in here. Let's take a look at this exchange, Britt, and we'll cut right away from this if the former president walks out. But this is the exchange that happened in the briefing room a short time ago with New York Times reporter Michael Scher and Karine Jean-Pierre. Watch this for us.
We're just going to be very mindful. These are ongoing cases.
500 cases involving Americans whose freedom was at risk.
I hear you.
Right?
But this is something that all of Americans watch in real time. In real time. And people died. People died.
I don't need a lecture on the fact that people
But you're lecturing
died.
me.
But
you're lecturing me. Yes, you are.
I'm asking questions. You called January 6th historic. It was absolutely historic, and none of us had ever seen that before. Nobody's seen this before either.
So this started,
Right.
I should have said
That's
it up
right.
better, Britt, but it started with a question about, what their reaction was to what's happening today in the courthouse in New York. And he's making the suggestion that, you talked about January 6th in those cases all the time. Why can you not talk about this, Britt?
Well, the sad truth is that she's not the greatest spokesperson that ever lived, and she seemed unprepared for the question. I mean, I think the general policy in the White House is, as you heard President Trump say in the driveway the other day when asked a question about, whether the case against Trump was politically motivated, he said, "I have no comment on Trump." That seems to be the order of the day, and that's what his spokesperson there, the White House press secretary, was following that course. But the point is entirely correct. When it suits them politically, they'll say whatever they want to say. And this isn't the first time we've ever seen this out of a White House, but that's what's going on.
Yeah, and politically, Britt, it would seem that they are quite happy to sort of sit back and let all of this play out as the president deliberates over whether or not he's going to run again. He's probably quite happy to have the focus on this.
Yeah, and it works kind of on two levels, Martha. On the one level, the people who really dislike Donald Trump, no matter what doubts they might have or should have about the legitimacy of this indictment, the people who really hate Trump love to see the idea of him, in the dock, the humiliation of being booked and fingerprinted and arraigned and all that, even as embarrassing as that undoubtedly is for him, they love it. And they don't really seem to care whether it's a legitimate case or not.
Nope.
On the other hand, to the extent that it revs up his supporters and strengthens his support, at least for the moment, as the polls are suggesting, that betters his chance of the Republican nomination. And they like that, too, because they think that if Joe Biden runs, or even if he doesn't, that Donald Trump can't win again. And there's a pretty good case to be made that that may be true. And so there you go, Martha. Political calculus seems fairly simple.
Yeah. Interesting. We're getting some messages from people in the Trump circle. Eric Trump saying, this just happened. The Ninth Circuit just awarded Trump $121,000 in attorney fees from Stormy Daniels. Order just released. This is an addition, he says, to the $500,000 that she already owes him. Obviously, interesting timing on that one, Brett.
Yeah, but it's not exactly it's not the stuff of a political slogan. Vote for me.
Trump.
I collected $121,000 from a porn star I had an encounter with. Oh, good.
Bill, your thoughts on that judgment from the
I mean, that was expected. I mean, he's entitled to those fees. The timing, I have to say, is very curious.
And it does raise this issue of, sort of the underlying issues that we're talking about here, But
I'm afraid, this is just the beginning of 2 years where, we're going to have a lot of heavy breathing about a lot of legal developments. And it's unfortunate because it'll divert attention from the serious issues that the country face and we have to wrestle with in this election.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, Brett. And, if you're Ron DeSantis right now, or Nikki Haley, or anyone else who's thinking about getting into this race, how do you manage this part of the equation as a candidate?
Well, I think you'll wait for it to pass, really. I mean, look, this event has happened. The arraignment has occurred. There will be motions and news made in the course of the proceedings that might lead up to a trial, if indeed there is one. But during the rest of the time, things will return somewhat to normal. And that once this day and this circus outside the Trump Tower and outside the courthouse passes, we'll be back to a normal circumstance for normal campaigning. Now, the key fact here is that at some point, one of these candidates or someone acting on their behalf is going to have to take the former president on, and to do so effectively. You've seen it done. I mean, Chris Christie did a good job on Marco Rubio a few years ago, which ended up benefiting Trump. Chris Christie this time around seems interested in getting in the middle of all this and taking on Trump. Well, we'll see if he does. But all these are things that are apart from today's events that will unfold or not over time. Remember, we're still very early in this process. An awful lot can happen, and early frontrunners often go by the board, as we've seen in a number of elections past.
Absolutely. The caveat, though, is that we're dealing with a former president who wants a second term.
Nobody can touch Trump.
So in many ways, he has an incumbency, but he doesn't. and it makes this just a fascinating process to watch. Gentlemen, if you could stay with us for just a minute, we're going to go to Peter Ducey, who is inside the briefing room and watched that tense exchange that we just played. Let's check in with him now. He's out on the North Lawn. Hi, Peter.
Martha, we are all out of chances to potentially hear from President Biden about what's happening in Manhattan because the White House called a lid at 3:12 p.m. That means no more events with the president where somebody could shout a question. A few minutes ago, he was meeting with his science and technology advisors about artificial intelligence. There was some shouting at the end. He did not answer anything about this or about the detained Wall Street Journal reporter, which is what reporters were asking about. There has been some chatter in town in the last couple of days about the process and about the precedent that this indictment of a former president by a local DA could set. And so that is something that we asked the press secretary about a few minutes ago. Listen here.
Is he concerned at all that a local DA indicting a former president could down the line open up the possibility, set the precedent, that local DAs that don't like former President Biden could indict him?
I'm not going to comment from here.
Why don't you have more to say about the Trump indictment?
It is an ongoing case, and I've been very clear about that. We've been prudent about that, not commenting on ongoing cases, and we're going to stick to that. Peter?
And there were some further questions after that about why they'll talk about January 6th, which is still something that there's ongoing litigation surrounding. And they said that was just different. So they are continuing their strategy. It is obviously
knows no
strategy
bounds.
not to talk about this. And not because of the political angle, but mostly just because it is an ongoing case, Martha.
Okay, Peter, thank you very much. Peter Ducey at the White House. We do have some new images to share with you from inside the courtroom. As you know, there were no live cameras allowed in there. We do just have still photos of the proceedings here. The president just sitting at the desk, the defendant's desk, surrounded by his attorneys who we mentioned before. Bill Barr, you know, you have your own experience with this president. When you look at these pictures and he has been arrested and indicted and is in this courtroom, what goes through your mind on a personal level?
Well, as people know, I've had my differences with the president, but this situation, I think, he's being unjustly treated, just as he was by the Russiagate scam and the whole idea of the resistance. So I feel bad that this has happened. I don't think it's justified, and so at that very human level, I feel bad for him.
What about these attorneys and what about the choice to bring in Todd Blanche, who people see on the left-hand side of the screen? We're getting a couple different images in here. As I said, very limited ability to take any photos in there. He left Cadwalader, his firm where he was a partner. He said he could not, something along the lines of, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to do this, to handle this. Why do you think he says that?
Because he hasn't worked with Trump before.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You think he'll be sorry? Is that what you're saying?
Lawyers inevitably are sorry for taking on assignments with him. They either spend a lot of time before grand juries or depositions themselves.
No, I don't.
All right, we're just watching him come out of the room here and back into that hallway. So this process is over. We should expect that we're going to see in detail the list of this indictment. Nothing that we've heard so far indicates that there's any big bombshell here. We were told that this was going to be very solid. We were told by Lanny Davis, Michael Cohen's attorney, that we were going to be surprised by some of what we saw here, that there were more crimes than people know in this case. So we're watching to see if we will hear from the former president as he makes his way out of the building, and we wait for this. Andy McCarthy.
No, I don't think that Stormy Daniels news has any effect on this Trump situation. I think that was expected anyway. It's just the interesting timing, but that's just my quick answer. It could, but not to my knowledge.
You know, you don't know what's in this indictment. We have to wait to see it. It's pretty much, from the way it's been described, what we heard it was. And I think that we should have all of the fright about that we've expressed so far. As I read the New York statute, you know, former Attorney General Barr has made a great point about.
All right, I'm gonna kill this one, and we're gonna open now that the court situation is. We're going to go over to Right Side Broadcasting, hear what they have to say.
Grace, that same question earlier. I think absolutely, if they can, they will. Now, will he obey it? Grace said this, and I liked her response. She said, nobody can silence President Trump. They tried before, and look what he did. He created Truth Social. He created his entire own social media platform so that he could have a voice and reach his constituents, the American people. So I agree with her. I mean, I think that it'd be terrible not to be able to defend yourself during an election. We're going to have to see about that. But
we do have some breaking news right now. We're getting reports that President Trump has actually left the courtroom and is headed back into the processing room, which he came from originally, which means that the arraignment could be at a conclusion. And we are now waiting for him to actually exit the building and head out in his motorcade. So you're seeing live images right now outside the courthouse. Helicopter.
So that's the reason I was wanting to stay with the Fox feed, because they have a better position, because they're or mainstream
contribution. In the
garbage.
Edwards case,
They have
the
better-
Federal Election
better
Commission and the
position.
Department of Justice disagreed on that question, and they're the experts here. So I don't think he can prove it. I don't think he gets in the door legally, and if he could get in the door, I don't think he can make the case evidence-wise.
If that's the case, and I'm going to ask Bill Bardaway.
I like Right Side Broadcasting, but that dude sounded like he had a lot of soy going on that was talking. Just saying. All right.
The secondary crime, which has to be in place in order to prove that there was some manipulation going on.
So that's
that you're
Trump.
trying to,
Trump has leaving. He's
obfuscate
not
these
talking.
business
He's not
records
going to
with
talk.
intent to do something harmful. How can he allow it to go forward if that's the case?
Well, I was in the middle of saying why this lawyer from Cadwalader would take the case.
Yes.
And the other reason one reason he would take it is because at the end of the day, it's going to be a winner. And at some point, someone will, who isn't infected by the craziness of our age, is going to come in and straighten this thing out at some level of the judiciary, even if it goes into the federal appellate system. And since it all turns on a federal criminal statute, I think it would ultimately come to that. So at some point, some judge is going to stand up and do what's right here. I hope it's the first judge.
Now, would he indicate in any way, let's just assume for a moment that he looks at this and sees what you're saying. Would he have indicated in any way to the DA, look, when this happens, there's a chance that I might dismiss this thing, or would they not have any conversation about it at all? How would that work?
That's one to ask Judge Pirro, about the inner workings of the New York system, but or maybe
Andy. Andy, would there be any communication between Judge Martian and Alvin Bragg about the tenuousness of this charge, if you guys are laying it out correctly?
It really depends on the judge, Martha. Some of them are, very active and very involved and energetic from the get-go. Others will basically do nothing more today than perhaps set a schedule for discovery and future motions. If I'm Trump's lawyers, what I would be arguing for today is that even if there has to be a motion schedule that gets projected into the future so that sometime down the road you can have the conventional motions to, quash evidence or limit things that the jury gets to hear. In the early stages, I would want an opportunity forthwith to make a.
Is this like it? I don't understand how safe it is to be following the president as he drives through the city of New York right now. Doesn't seem normal that they're just following where his every move is. A former president of the United States who's currently in New York City. That doesn't seem normal to me. But of course, welcome to life as long as Trump is part of it. You know what I mean? Just saying.
Bill.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. Alvin Bragg has had other successful cases. He's the district attorney. We all know he's been out to get Trump. But, why would he lay himself out on the line this far with this kind of case if he doesn't have, and, we were told, oh, wait till you see it. And we haven't seen it yet. We're still waiting. I'm still waiting for this to drop into our system. Why would he do this, Bill?
So I will be live, but it will be on the main Geeks Gamers channel. So there's a lot going on tonight, but clearly Trump is going to go live from Mar-a-Lago at 8 p.m., I believe. But I will be live on the main Geeks Gamers channel for Tuesday night's main event. We have a huge show tonight. So I may be doing a late CobraCast tonight to talk about everything.
From the president, we thought we might on his way out of the courthouse, but we do expect that we will hear from him this evening from Mar-a-Lago once he gets back home to Florida, which is now his main residence. And Alvin Bragg is going to speak any moment now. And won't it be interesting to hear how he backs up this indictment, which Andy McCarthy and the former Attorney General Bill Barr have both basically taken a scalpel to and say that there's not much there at all. So we'll see what Alvin Bragg, the DA, has to say about how he handles this. Do we still have Britt with us, guys?
So we're getting ready.
Britt, you know,
we're getting ready for Fat Alvin Bragg to speak live. Now, just to be clear, when we call him Fat Alvin Bragg, what we really mean is that he's a fat piece of fucking shit, and we have no respect for him whatsoever. So I just wanted to clarify exactly what was meant by that, just so there's no confusion.
I think my guess is, knowing him as we all do from seeing so much of him, that he'll be pretty defiant. And he will be saying onward and forward. We're going to make America great again. This isn't going to deter me. It's a flimsy charge brought for political reasons. His supporters will be there in some number, and they will cheer him lustily. And life will go on much as it did before all this, with the exception that, as we all know, something historic and undesirable has happened.
So as I said, thank you, Britt. We're waiting for the DA to step in front of the microphone. We also understand that Jake Gibson, who is our producer, who was inside the room and who we are looking forward to hearing from about the demeanor of the former president and everything that went down in there, and also this list of the actual indictment with these 34 counts, that he's going to get in front of the camera for us shortly as well. So we look forward to that. But here is the president's motorcade as it heads back. And clearly, Britt, you know, this is a moment, as you say, it will pass. Other things will take precedent. But he's the center of attention now in a way that he hasn't been since he started this campaign, Britt.
Yeah, I know, but I guarantee you, no matter what people say, this isn't how he would like to establish himself anew as the center of our attention of our politics.
Trump is always the center of attention.
The charges, and from all that our legal analysts have indicated, it looks pretty flimsy, this case. Nonetheless, it's, you don't want to go into the courtroom and be arraigned and stand there at the mercy of some judge and possibly later a jury, and with a prosecutor out to get you. You just don't want that. Look, I've been a defendant in a couple of lawsuits, and I'll tell you, they turned out fine, but it was no fun. And I guarantee you, today was no fun for Donald Trump.
No doubt. Bill?
I agree. Yeah.
It's hard to spin it into a positive moment. And no doubt, as Britt says, that the president will do his best to be defiant when he speaks tonight at Mar-a-Lago about this. But it also has to be, Bill, hanging over him that this is just the very beginning. There are several other cases in the pipeline.
Right. And that's why I don't think this is necessarily going to fade. There's going to be re-upping of this on a consistent basis, I think. And I feel bad about what's happened to the office of the president over the last few years with all this turmoil. I mean, his advisors have been ordered now to appear before the January 6th process.
There's usually always one in the CobraCast chat. It's like there's always some lefty loser in the chat that just honestly, if this was normal CobraCast, I would have highlighted them and monetized them. But I haven't actually seen a lot yet. But there's always at least one in the CobraCast chat. The Snake Pit doesn't put up with that shit, though. We like to have fun with it.
As you say, that's an erosion of the executive power, something that you've always spoken of very strongly in terms of the importance of preserving that. So what's lost when you have advisors who may be going to work for this president or the next president who know that they might be forced into this situation as well now as a precedent here.
Right. It'll have tremendous chilling effect on robust conversations and give and take debates within the executive branch, and that'll lead to worse government.
So we watch as the motorcade makes its way now to LaGuardia Airport. You know, this is all going to play out, Britt, over the course of the next several months, while the rest of us are covering this election, doing debate I mean, what's the impact of this on a debate environment? If you're on stage with this former president and he's facing several indictments, how do you deal with that if you are, you know, potentially DeSantis or any of these other candidates?
That's a very good question politically, because it goes to the larger question of how do you deal with Donald Trump if you're trying to beat him and at the same time possibly hang on to the allegiance in a general election of his hardcore of support. And that has been the problem facing the Republican Party now for several cycles. And here we are again, Martha. So you've got this controversial president, hated by many, loved by some.
Whoa.
You need
Whoa. Fuck off, Brit Hume. Hated by many, loved by some. You fucking old, pathetic piece of shit. That is not accurate at all. That is not accurate at all. Fuck off, Brit Hume. You piece of garbage.
Down by attacks from other candidates. But the beneficiary of those attacks is not normally the person doing the attacking. It's usually somebody else.
Yes,
as we
it's
saw
a great
with,
point.
You know, Chris Christie takes on Marco Rubio. If
Yeah.
it didn't help Christie, it didn't help Rubio. Who did it help? It ended up
You're so
helping
right.
Donald Trump.
You're so right. Let's go straight to Jake Gibson and Brian Yennis. Jake was in the courtroom and he has the indictment. Jake and Brian, what can you tell us?
All right, Martha, Jake Gibson is the Department of Justice producer. Jake, what can you tell us about the charges in the indictment?
So 34 charges. They're felony charges for falsifying business records in New York. And then also within that, using those records to help suppress a story that may have done damage to his campaign. Those are the charges, 34 of them. Mr. Trump walked in, former President Trump walked in. He seemed to have a bit of a swagger. He looked stoic. He looked stone-faced. He pled not guilty. He said not guilty. At some point, the prosecution brought up all of the social media posts that he has put out recently, including the one where he's holding a bat next to DA Bragg, and the prosecution said this is could be looked at as inciting violence, and they wanted Judge Merchan to. It seemed like they wanted him to give a gag order. Justice Merchan said that no, he wouldn't give a gag order, but he said to Mr. Trump and to his attorneys, I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want to see the next time that I see something like this, I might have a different idea about what I should do. His attorney said that, look, this case they've been investigating this for 3 years. There's been selective leaks that are harming former President Trump, and it's unthinkable that he wouldn't be allowed to defend himself. That is their way of justifying his posts. The judge said that he wasn't sure that justified, if he was inciting violence, right? Later, the prosecution also said that there was a conflict of interest with defense attorney Tacopino, that they just received a letter from Stormy Daniels' lawyer wherein they say that he had communications with her, and that's a conflict of interest. Tacopino said that no, that he had never met with her, had never spoken with her, that she called his office looking to hire him, spoke to a paralegal, but he never took her off, he never took her as a client, so that shouldn't be a conflict of interest. Very interestingly, the prosecution wants this to go to trial in January of 2024, and you know what else is in January of 2024 is primary season for the presidential election. Former President Trump's team didn't want anything to do with that. They want to push it further out. However, the judge said, I would like to move expeditiously. There will be motions on both sides. Defense motions will come next, and then the prosecution will have a response. On December 4th, there will be another hearing here where the judge will give his decision on the motions. Okay, so that's the next time we have something here, December 4th, in person. The President Trump's team, hinted that maybe they didn't want him to come to that hearing, and the judge said it's good if he would come to these hearings. A jury eventually, if there is a trial, would want to see him And the defense said, right, but think of all the money that was spent with this today, and how much, the burden this put on the city. And the judge seemed to agree that it was a serious burden, but that he still thought that Mr. Trump should attend. And he denied their request that maybe if he didn't want to attend the December 4th hearing. He said maybe in the future we could let him out of one, but I'd like to see him at the December 4th hearing.
A ton of information. Martha, just you can come in at any moment with the question, but I just want to kind of wrap up what you were saying. So the former president will have his next hearing on December 4th here in Manhattan.
Correct.
There was the talk of the gag order. Judge Merchan was not interested in doing that because he did not think that it was an incitement of violence, the post from the former president.
What he said is, I'm requesting that you don't do that. It's a request at this point. It's not an order. It's a request.
And he stay off of social media.
That he not do things that might be looked as inciting some type of violence, or getting having something that would end up with a protest where someone could be hurt. And he said, now, I'm not going to impose a gag order now. However, if, the prosecution showed the judge the post, they gave him printed copies of them, and he was looking at them, and he said, and if I see these, if I get this passed to me again, I might have a different idea about this. And this is how it works in a lot of trials. Judges consider a gag order to be a pretty severe order. And so he didn't, it seemed like, want to go out there already on the first hearing on arraignment day and go that far.
Okay. And it seems like this had to deal with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Is that right?
I didn't hear the name Karen McDougal, but we did hear the name Stormy Daniels. We definitely, her name was mentioned in court today.
Okay. Martha.
Yeah, Brian, quick question. So that's significant, I think, because one of the things that we were looking to potentially intensify this presentation of this indictment was that we heard David Pecker involved in 2 hearings, and he came back at the end and thought maybe the Karen McDougal's part of the story was going to kind of put some more substance behind this, but it sounds like that's not the case. And so the judge says he wants to move, fairly quickly, and the next hearing isn't until December 4th. Did I hear that right?
Dragging it out.
Yeah, no, you heard that right. So he wants to move fairly quickly, but the next hearing isn't until December 4th.
Because there will be motions. I think it's September 19th. In August, there are the motions that the defense can file, and then the prosecution has to respond by September 19th, and then the next hearing would be December 4th. And it is quite a ways off, yes.
Did the defense show their cards on the types of motions that they're going to file? For instance, change of venue. Was there a motion to dismiss the case outright?
Change of venue was not mentioned. However, when the prosecution laid out, or they talked about a little bit of the background of the charges and launched into a bit of an attack about Mr. Trump's what he's been saying over social media, the defense attorney got up and said, I didn't know we were doing opening statements today. I didn't know, he seemed to be taking a jab at them that I thought this was an arraignment day, not, you're going to give us your whole opening statement.
Okay, so defense didn't want to show their cards clearly and get into that kind of detail at this time. And Martha, you had mentioned David Pecker. We have a press release, and I'm sure you have it as well, from the DA Alvin Bragg that goes over some of these counts. And it does talk about AMI, which was American Media Company. David Pecker was the witness who was brought into the grand jury, correct? And he testified twice, as you mentioned, Martha, and he was accused of catch for kill. Essentially, he was the person who was the intermediary between him and Michael Cohen, the former president's personal attorney, to pay Karen McDougal $150,000. And that instance of the $150,000 payment is mentioned in the DA's press release describing these payments and describing these felony counts. So it does appear that Karen McDougal is at the basis of this, and David Pecker, who was interviewed multiple times by the grand jury, as well as Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. Jake, do you have anything else you'd like to offer us before we send it back over to Martha?
I think it's worth noting. I think I brought it up already, but I may not have. That President Trump, former President Trump, definitely glared at the DA Bragg when he left. He seemed to get up, look around the room, because he walked in. Trump was the last one to walk in the hearing, and this was pretty intense. I mean, it's not a huge room, but there's probably 50 reporters in there. There were 15, 20, 25 law enforcement officials that were on the end of each row. So we couldn't really see that well because they're standing up in front. So we can't really see up there. What you really saw well is him enter the room and leave the room. There was Secret Service agents in there. There were the court police. There were just a lot of police in there, and they were very strict with the press. You know, we will kick you out of here. We see a phone, we'll kick you out. People would try to sit up a little bit to look, sit down. I think this was a very serious, you know, it was very intense in there.
What was the judge's tone when he was, did he admonish the former president or his lawyers?
No, Judge Merchan was very measured. You know, he did not show his, you know, he did not seem to have any beef with President Trump.
But he does.
I think he went out of his way to make sure that he was showing everyone that he could be very fair about this.
Jake Gibson, thank you. Incredible job in there. Thank you. Martha, back to you.
Yeah, fascinating. Thank you so much, Jake Gibson and Brian Yennis. Let's see if we can hear some of this. This is the Trump attorneys who are taking some questions. Watch. At the back of Joe Tacopina there, and Todd Blanche is next to him. They were sort of chuckling a moment ago about something. Couldn't hear exactly what they were saying. Bill Barr's watching all this with me, and he is going through the indictment, which we're told does not really have a lot of surprises in it. What do you think, Bill?
Well, it doesn't have any surprises, except they never really specify what the crime was that was being concealed. It's very repetitive. It's what we would refer to as stacking. Every document is cited as a specific felony, and it just says that he caused a false record, and he did it with the intent to conceal another crime, period. It doesn't really get into the theory of the case.
So it doesn't say that the other crime created a federal election issue?
They don't say that, no. But so they have some optionality, I guess, to figure out what the crime is.
This is such a clown show. It's so depressing that we're at this point in time, but it's not surprising. We've seen this play out over and over and over again, and they're just, these people are so deranged. They have to have Trump stopped. They have to stop him at any case. They have to stop him. They're going to do everything in their power to derail him, and ultimately it's not going to happen. If you go back to January 6th and all the nonsense that followed that, you know, it seemed like they're really going to try to take him down there, and that didn't stick. And again, it's not a coincidence that everything with January 6th fell apart. The whole entire thing fell apart. And now here we are, right when that falls apart, the day that Jacob Chansley was let out of prison, the, you know, QAnon shaman, now suddenly the indictment of Trump happens. It's insane. It's insane. But it will be a ultimate massive backfire because Trump has more support than he's ever had right now at this point in time. Let's see. The Riddler says they're going to Andrew Tate the Don or worse. We will see. Grand Admiral Thom for $1.99 says Trump is going down like Al Capone. LOL. Sierra Tongo says, hey Jeremy and everyone, hail Snake Pit, and boy, what a time to be alive. Trump 2024. Thank you. B-Wee says Trump's got that dog in him. He'll fight for America until he's dust in the wind. I agree. Disillusion Man, spoken like someone from Bama. She's my sister. Lying Dogface Pony Soldier with another D-Day Cobra memberships. We're up to 39 memberships on the day. Thank you so much. Sir Ruin of Head, don't want to switch to CNN or MSNBC. LOL. No, not quite. Let's hear what they're saying really quickly, and then I'll go back to reading.
And the one thing that's changed is that they got a conviction in December against the Trump Organization. And then a fine was issued in mid-January to the tune of $1.6 million. And it was toward the end of the month where Bragg sat a grand jury, and in all likelihood, Martha, he may have thought, wow, if this case over the period of 6 weeks' time was this easy to get a conviction, I can go forward with the jury in New York City on the Stormy Daniels matter. Now, based on everything that we know, that's about the only thing that has changed over the past 15 months. I'd be curious to know what Andy McCarthy thinks about that, or even Bill Barr. I want to pass one thing on to you. Eric Trump today at 2:15, when his father was inside the courtroom, moments before he came to the door, then went down and sat before the judge, he sent this message to me. He said, Alvin Bragg has shut down the entire city, called up 38,000 NYPD police officers, closed down the FDR, which is the highway in the east side of Manhattan, and are spending an estimated $200 million of city funds for a $130,000 NDA, non-disclosure agreement. I never thought I would see this political corruption in our country. And then he said, you can quote me on that. A moment ago, he shared that on Twitter as well. And so that is some reaction that we're getting from the Trump family. With regard to some other Republicans, I reached out to Chris Christie. Let me see if I can find this here. I was texting him a bit earlier today. He said an incredible day for Trump. He has both dreaded this day and probably can't believe he is actually here, which I think a lot of people on the Trump circle would probably agree with, especially that last comment there. Martha, this is the book written by Mark Pomerantz that was published.
The fact that Trump's presence just shuts down the entire city of New York just shows you how important Trump really is. Pretty crazy. Just Chillin' says the amount of investigation they did on President Trump and found nothing shows that he is a better president than any other. 100%. Jenna Hughes says, oh man, he's not a happy camper. He's posturing the I can't believe this crap walk. That's for the emergency stream, Jeremy. No better place I'd rather be than here right now. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, I will go. There was a comment that someone made earlier, and so you got to do a CobraCast on his announcement later tonight after Tuesday night's main event if you're not beat from all the streams today. That'll be our fourth stream of the day, but I'm going to do it because of all of you. So, so we have a huge Tuesday night's main event scheduled tonight on Geeks and Gamers. Graham Nolan is going to be joining us. That's going to be awesome. Nerdrotic Gary will be there. That's going to be awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. And it should be a banger. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in the chat. I want us to light it up and make it happen. Let's see here. Ghost Crusaders. Martha McCallum is a see you next Tuesday. She is one of the reasons I stopped watching Fox. 100%. Paul Estrada says, I will always stand beside the best president of my lifetime, Donald J. Trump. Miss Winnie says, this is happening the same week they arrested Jesus Christ. Free men die free. If they stop Trump 2024, flood the Libertarian Party, we shall 1776 them together. Agent Exciter, where the hell did it go? I just lost it. Agent Exciter says the Democrats have actually figured out how to make an NYC real estate billionaire alpha rich guy into an underdog, and Americans love the underdog. Absolutely. Car Kick becomes a new member of the Snake Pit. Thank you. Haas Bonnet Venture, love Trump 2024, but no Jared Kushner this time. 100%. Eric John, what's up? He should have thrown the thumbs up from court. For the emperor, I will vote for no one but Trump. Hell yes. Exercise. Let's see. Exercise. Is that Machina or Machina? Let's not nominate the guy who didn't. Let's not nominate the guy who didn't fire Fauci. Again, if you think that one decision that you disagree with is enough to support Brandon or a rhino, that's your business. I think that's fucking retarded. Imagine not wanting to vote for Trump because he did one or two things you didn't like. So your options are a fucking rhino who's fucking pushed by the Bush family and Paul Ryan, or Joe Biden. Yeah, go ahead and keep crying that Donald Trump did a few things you didn't fucking like. So go ahead and support somebody that has the fucking Bush family behind them. Go ahead and do that. That makes a lot of fucking sense. That's why we're in this position to begin with, because of fucking retards like you. Trump did 3 things that I didn't like, so I'm going to support somebody that's backed by the fucking Bush family, the people that start fucking wars for no reason whatsoever. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, you fucking idiot. But go ahead and do that. Make sure you're subscribed to the Daily Wire as well. Holy fuck. God, he did 2 things I didn't like, so therefore I've got to support the fucking Bush family so I can get more fucking wars and have dead soldiers, tens of thousands of dead soldiers. Jesus Christ. You fucking people. Makes no sense. Jesus, fuck. Guess what? In life, do you understand that everyone's not going to agree with everything you say? There's going to be disagreements. Human beings are going to make mistakes. Bad things are going to happen, and nobody's perfect. I know, it's a shocking thing. Trump fucked up with the Fauci thing. Breaking fucking news. He did bad with the jabs. Breaking fucking news. He hired some bad people in his administration. Breaking fucking news. He also gave us the best fucking economy known to man. He also made historic peace deals around the world. He also started no new wars. He also had record unemployment. But hey, let's focus on a couple of bad things he did. Anyway, Tommy H for $2. The weaseling they did to sidestep the SOL is horrid. Yes. Nate's memes. Have you heard Indicted We Stand by Laza Alexander? I have not. I'll have to check that out. Crypto for $9.99. The Democrats have opened Pandora's box and they will not be able to close it. 100%. Venom Kaitsu, living through historic moments is getting exhausting. Yes, it is. Lord Plagueis says, any news about the gag order? No gag order as it stands right now. Paul Meyer, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil. Venom Kaitsu, beard of shame to that painted psycho at the start. No beard of shame today because this is an emergency. CobraCast. Nate's memes. Jeremy, I got that one. Digital demonic Davros. She has handcuffs. I'm in. Talking about the female police officer. Anvex says, no Adam's apple. She's good, lads. Sorry, as Mr. Squiggles, I have to step out and walk my dog quick. If Trump starts speaking, please ask him to wait until I come back. Thanks. I will definitely do that. John Jones, anyone even suggesting that Nikki Haley has a chance in the primaries remind me of people who thought that TCU had a chance against UGA earlier this year. Marcus Henry, no one can beat Trump but Trump. That's one thing I'll give the Democrats. Joe Biden is the perfect opponent for Trump. That honestly was genius. Jimbo, Jeremy, get Jay and Park hopping out there with a camera. You still got time. It'll grow the channel, LOL. John Wayne drinks SJW tears. This political witch hunt will only backfire in their sick commie faces. Bigly, Trump 2024, Trump forever. Gerald Armstrong, could be worse. It could be Steve Lookner. Whew, Lookner has a severe case of TDS. Tweed Tone says Stormy Daniels, not my proudest fap. Hey, we all have a few, right? Matthew Katsis, Donald Trump Jr. just tweeted a W. Yeah, I just read that. Lying dog-faced pony soldier with another gifted D-Day Cobra membership. Tam says the host is trying everything to call DeSantis' name. Fox News is just different. Fixie Clary. Where'd it go? I saw Brett Hume say that on TV here. I got that and about 30 seconds before you did, and I knew how you were going to respond. Absolutely. Jorge Barracuda. Fat Alvin. Let's see. Fat looking like someone Ripa has destroyed in a debate. Is Fat Alvin out there yet? He is not. Mark A. Hendricks. Today's shenanigans brought to you by the Democratic Party, care of the Biden administration. Thank you for participating in the destruction of law. Sad but true. Vicidius. Michael Cohen admitted in court docs to paying Daniels on his own, and Trump had no knowledge of it. FYI, this is the judge from the Trump original trial. Yes, I'm aware of that. And it looks like Trump is heading out here soon. Kevin Cron says, can you replay the in-game clip with Trump again? I'll do that to end the stream. The Joker says Michael Knowles is pretty much the only Daily Wire personality who supports Trump. Mugsican says things are expensive now. Wait until Trump doesn't get elected again. When you can't buy food, let the cashier know that at least no mean tweets. Yeah, or the fact that the guy that didn't fire Fauci is not here. But hey, we don't have food, but the guy that didn't fire Fauci didn't get elected, because that makes a lot of sense. Fucking people, man. Like I get it. Trump did a few things you don't like. That's fair. Shit, I didn't mean to unshare that. Trump did a few things you don't like. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So you're going to go vote for Brandon? You're going to go vote for Brandon? You're going to go vote for a guy that's funded by the fucking Bush crime family? Okay, go for it. If that's your biggest problem and you think it's going to be solved by supporting the Bush crime family, okay, have fun with that one.
Is that these are 34 felony counts for falsifying business records in New York. And in the indictment, the first line reads, the defendant, Donald J. Trump, repeatedly and fraudulently falsified New York business records to conceal criminal conduct that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election. Those are the counts and it goes on and on at this point. We're still kind of sifting through it. We're going to hear more from the DA Bragg. Let's bring in Jake Gibson.
I'm waiting for Fat Alvin to come up there before we call this. Again, Tuesday night's main event. It's going to be a banger tonight, so make sure. And I may have another person I'm going to bring on. I just got a message from another person. So we may just have a huge panel tonight, okay? May have a huge panel tonight. So we'll see. Well, Trump certainly is not perfect. And anybody that thinks that's kind of crazy. Jeremy gets more Bama when he gets angry. No, Jay, God damn it. You're not sitting out tonight. Jay always want to sit out. Can Jay get Alvin Bragg on Tuesday night's main event?
Because the prosecution is saying, look, these are some incendiary communications and posts that former President Trump has put out there that could incite violence. And we want you to do something about it to the judge.
Prosecution handed over to Judge Juan Merchan.
Actual printouts of
Hell
posts
yeah.
from
Look at there, boys. Switching my membership from Timcast to CobraCast. Much better content. That's what's up right there. That is what's up. I can appreciate that. Thank you so much. And again, I've never told anybody to unsubscribe from Tim or stop supporting him. Never, ever would I say that about another content creator. You have the ability to do whatever you want with your time and money. And I will never judge you for supporting your favorite creator, whoever that may be. But I had criticisms. And there it is right there. Ashen Rose is now a new member of the Snake Pit. Welcome into the Snake Pit. And thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. 40 new members on the day, over 1,000 total for the channel. The Snake Pit grows. And again, we have so many members now. So I'm probably I might do a gaming stream or something for our members. Again, it's I would never make a members only chat for CobraCast. That would be the worst thing imaginable. Imagine taking your flagship show. Imagine taking your flagship show on your YouTube channel and shutting down the chat that only members could comment because they were criticizing you too much because of your own bad decisions. Imagine that. Not going to happen here. Not going to happen here. Play Modern Warfare 2. That's probably going to be it. So you are very welcome, Chris. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Let's see.
Out some of their complaints about Mr. Trump, and the defense is like, hey, that's a lot. I thought this was just an arraignment here.
So ultimately, they landed on the first court appearance, and this will be an appearance. Former President Trump will have to come to court on December 4th.
That was how Judge Merchan ruled at the end, and Mr. Trump's defense attorneys said that they might not want him. Maybe he doesn't want to attend. Does he have to attend? And they brought up the intense burden that this has put on the city of New York and the intense expense that this has put on the city of New York. And Judge Merchan said, no, I understand that. I understand that the expense and the burden. However, I think that he should come to this hearing. And maybe we'll talk about other hearings down the road that he doesn't have to come to. But this one he should be at.
We're about to listen to DA Alvin Bragg have his press conference. Let's talk a little bit more about demeanor. You said that the former president glared at DA Bragg.
He when he walked in, he seemed to swagger. He seemed like a man who, was getting in a fight or something. He was stone-faced. I looked right at him. I had a great kind of edge seat. I looked right at him, and he was stone-faced, and walked slowly. And he was the last one in the room. the security in there was intense. There's at least 25 law enforcement officials, threatening to kick us out if we use our phones, threatening to kick us out if we try to get up and leave, or if we even move around. And everyone was there except he was the last guy to enter that room, and he took his time. He walked slowly to his seat, and then when the hearing was over, a lot of the hearing we couldn't see because not only were there all these officers in there, but they all remained standing. So you're peering around them trying to see, and you can't see. You can just maybe get a glimpse of the back of Mr.
It's not much different than CNN. I'm not watching Fox News as an endorsement of Fox News. I'm watching Fox News as an endorsement to share the information to the audience as to what's going on, and then I can commentate on top of it. So just because Fox News is being shared doesn't mean that it's being endorsed. So settle down. It'll be okay. I'm not endorsing Fox News. I'm just trying to deliver the information to the audience. Therefore, I can commentate on top of what we're hearing.
But he was not. He didn't seem to be overtly hostile towards Mr. Trump. As we've seen Mr. Trump say that judge hates me. I think maybe Justice Merchan was aware of that and really wanted to make sure that the defense couldn't say, look you're overtly hostile towards my client. He definitely was a cool character.
Hey, I hear you, man. You know how we are about shit talking over here at the Snake Pit. We're all for it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess Alvin Bragg is eating again. So Mexicans becomes a member too. That's 3 new members just in the last few minutes. So
I appreciate you, Jake. You are absolutely awesome. But let's wait to Neil. Do you have any questions for Mr. Jake Gibson here about what he experienced inside?
I do, and it's maybe just more informational than anything else, Brian. But if you can ask Jake, I mean, was there an understanding from the judge, even though he didn't issue a gag order, that he doesn't want?
I'm trying to wait for Alvin Bragg, but I'm going to have to call it here soon because I still do have multiple streams left today. And this was an emergency surprise live stream that we were doing. So let's see. Republicans are such scared dorks leadership anyways. This is why we're here now. I hear you on that. And that's why my big problem is the cowards in the Republican Party. Look at Alec Baldwin's finger and look at the amount. $45.47 with the Trump Patriot profile picture. Alec Baldwin's finger in the house. Alec Baldwin's finger don't miss. All right? Don't miss. He don't miss. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Hell yeah. Thank you, Alec Baldwin's finger. $45.47. Perfect. Appreciate you, man. I hope you're doing well. Has Trump said anything on True Social? So the last thing Trump put out on True Social was this right here. That's the last thing he put on True Social, where he said, heading to Lower Manhattan, the courthouse. Seems so surreal. Wow. They are going to arrest me. Can't believe this is happening in America. MAGA. Well said, Mr. President. It is truly a sad, sad situation that we find ourselves in. It really, really is.
Can extend to more severe crimes if there is an intent to defraud. That includes the intent to commit another crime or aid to conceal a crime already a crime. I know that sounds verbose. What it means is, though, there are 34 felony counts here. Each count really represents a separate instance of misconduct or something that you shouldn't be doing. It is not a distinct different crime. And that's important to emphasize here. You might notice this idea of redundancy, but most of these counts stemming back to payments to 2 women. I think you're familiar with the women by now, but this idea that they were by making the payments and trying to get hush money, or that seems to be the implication here, that they were covering a crime with yet another crime and confusing people in the process. Now, if convicted on a felony bookkeeping fraud charges, which this is at its bare minimum is what the former president is facing, that could mean a sentence of up to 4 years.
Well, what are they setting this, like, what are they setting all this up for? Like, it's like he's presenting his case to the public right now. The fuck is all this in the background that they're doing? And they're showing like this pyramid scheme. It's like he's presenting his case to the public. What the hell is going on here? What the hell is happening right before our very eyes? How is this legal? What the hell is happening right now? This is disgusting. Holy shit.
And that's it. It doesn't get into some of these nuances on crimes or alleged crimes or any of that. So what we're left with here is a sort of an indictment that confuses a lot of folks, Republicans by and large, saying these are trumped up charges, no pun intended there, about a lot of nothing that are repetitive and are repeating multiple incidents of sometimes the same crime looked another way. I know that gets to be confusing, but when you hear that 34 count, oftentimes you're hearing, oh my gosh, 34 different crimes. I want to go to David Spunt on this. We're waiting to hear from Alvin Bragg, but that's what it comes down to. A lot here, to put it mildly. I don't want to dismiss it, David, but not as much as would first appear to be the case, right?
Yeah, Neil, exactly. And, you hear 34 felonies and you think 34 separate felonies. And we're going to go to DA Bragg right now.
I'm jumping on you, buddy. Alvin Bragg is talking right now. He's, of course, the prosecutor in this case.
Earlier this afternoon, Donald Trump was arraigned on a New York Supreme Court indictment returned by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime. That is exactly what this case is about. 34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct.
You can't.
The defendant repeatedly made false statements on New York business records. He also caused others to make false statements. The defendant claimed that he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services performed in 2017. This simply was not true. And it was a false statement that the defendant made month after month in 2017. April, May, June, and so on through the rest of the year. For 9 straight months, the defendant held documents in his hand containing.
Are we in court right now? Are we in court right now? Like, what the fuck is going on? This dude is presenting it like it's the goddamn jury.
Each of these 9 months. In total, the grand jury found there were 34 documents with this critical false statement. Why did Donald Trump repeatedly make these false statements? The evidence will show that he did so to cover up crimes relating to the 2016 election. Donald Trump, executives at the publishing company American Media Incorporated, Mr. Cohen, and others agreed in 2015 to a catch and kill scheme. That is a scheme to buy and suppress negative information to help Mr. Trump's chance of winning the election.
This is sick, dude.
As part of this scheme, Donald Trump and others made 3 payments to people who claimed to have negative information about Mr. Trump. To make these payments, they set up shell companies, and they made yet more false statements, including, for example, in AMI, American Media Incorporated's.
I can't believe what I'm
business records.
witnessing right here before my very
One of the 3
eyes.
people that they paid.
This dude is making his fucking opening arguments like he's in court at a press conference in order to sway public opinion against the leading presidential candidate of the Republican Party and a former president of the United States of America. We are witnessing this sham right here.
The scheme violated New York election law, which makes it a crime to conspire to promote a candidacy by unlawful means. The $130,000 wire payment exceeded the federal campaign contribution cap. And the false statements in AMI's books violated New York law. That is why Mr. Trump made false statements about his payments to Mr. Cohen. He could not simply say that the payments were a reimbursement for Mr. Cohen's payments to Stormy Daniels. To do so, to make that true statement, would have been to admit a crime. So instead, Mr. Trump said that he was paying Mr. Cohen for fictitious legal services in 2017 to cover up actual crime committed the prior year. And in order to get Michael Cohen his money back, they planned one last false statement. In order to complete the scheme, they planned to mischaracterize the repayments to Mr. Cohen as income to the New York State tax authorities. The conduct I just described and that which was charged by the grand jury is felony criminal conduct in New York State. True and accurate business records are important everywhere, to be sure. They are all the more important in Manhattan, the financial center of the world. That is why we have a history in the Manhattan DA's office of vigorously enforcing white-collar crime. My office, including the talented prosecutors you saw at arraignment earlier today, has charged hundreds of felony falsifying business records. This charge, it can be said, is the bread and butter of our white-collar work. And fraud presents itself in all different forms here in Manhattan. We have charged falsifying business records for those who violated federal bank secrecy laws. We have charged falsifying business records for those who were seeking to cover up sex crimes. And we have brought this charge for those who committed tax violations. At its core, this case today is one with allegations like so many.
This should have this entire thing thrown out. This performance where you're trying to win an Oscar. This right here, you are trying to open your opening statements to the public. You're not supposed to be doing this right now. That's not what this is for. This, oh my God, this is insane, man. This is insane that we're witnessing this right now. We don't live in a serious country anymore. We do not live in a serious country anymore. We absolutely do not live in a serious country.
There are no follow-up questions. One question per reporter. I will call on you. And again, we have limited time. Thank you. The first question will be Rick.
Thank you for giving us a statement. Why now? Some argue that this is a political move. You're not going to be a political person. If we're going to go into
We conducted a thorough and rigorous investigation, as we're known to do, at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I've been doing this for 24 years and am no stranger to rigorous, complex investigations. I bring cases when they're ready. Having now conducted a rigorous, thorough investigation, the case was ready to be brought, and it was brought.
Mr. Bragg, the indictment says that there were 34 false business records. And they would then conceal another crime, but the indictment does not specifically say what those crimes were. We are assuming, perhaps, that they might be election-related. I'm wondering if you can specify what laws were also broken.
Sure. So let me say as an initial matter, the indictment doesn't specify that because the law does not so require. In my remarks, I mentioned a couple of laws, which I will highlight again now. The first is New York State election law, which makes it a crime to conspire to promote a candidacy by unlawful means. I further indicated a number of unlawful means, including more additional false statements, including statements that were planned to be made to tax authorities. I also noted the federal election law cap on contribution limits.
But why weren't there those crimes charged falsely charged with those crimes?
Well, I'm not going to go into our deliberative process on what was brought. The charges that were brought were the ones that were
Oh,
brought.
now you don't want to
The
talk
evidence
about
in the law,
everything? Now you don't
is
want
the
to talk
basis for
about
those
everything?
decisions.
Shocking. Shocking.
You had expressed a year ago that you had some reservations about the case's readiness. Can you talk to us about what were some of the questions in your mind that needed to be answered in order to bring a case this magnitude?
I'm not going to go chapter and verse into any thinking. What I will say is, I believe the time period you're talking about, I've been in office for a couple of months. The investigation, in my view, was not concluded into the conduct in particular that is the basis for the charges today. Since that time, we've had more evidence made available to the office and opportunity to meet with additional witnesses. So as I said earlier, I've been doing this for 24 years. I don't bring cases prior to a thorough and rigorous investigation. Now, having done so, the case has been brought.
Mr. Bragg, Garrett Hake with NBC News. Your predecessor took a hard look at this case and decided not to charge it. Federal prosecutors took a hard look at this case and decided not to charge it. Do you believe you have new evidence that led you to decide to charge this, or why now?
Well, as I just mentioned, we have had available to the office additional evidence that was not in the office's possession prior to my time here. And as to your part of your question about the federal, we have a distinct and strong, I would say profound, independent interest in New York State. This is the business capital of the world. We regularly do cases involving false business statements. The bedrock, in fact, the basis for business integrity and a well-functioning business marketplace is true and accurate record keeping. That's the charge that's brought here, falsifying New York State business records.
Thank you. DA Bragg, I'm just going to read back one line from your statement of facts. The participants also took steps that mischaracterized for tax purposes the true nature of payments and furtherance of the scheme. Do you allege former President Trump was one of the participants who mischaracterized the payments for tax purposes?
I'm not going to go beyond the plain language statement of facts, which I think speaks for itself.
Brad, can you please comment on the strength of the evidence that Trump personally intended to violate state election law, including actions that are charged in the indictment?
So the charge is falsifying business records. The charge requires, as I specified, criminal conduct that was concealed. One of the concealed crimes we allege is New York State election law. I sort of went through in our statement of facts, which I think many of you have in front of you, goes through things including, text messages, emails, contemporaneous phone records, multiple witnesses. All of that will be, as you saw in the fall, borne out in a public courtroom in downtown Manhattan.
Our last question is Jonah.
Yeah, Greg, the charges that were related to the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, the release from your office, also mentions another woman, Karen McDougal, as well as a doorman. Can you comment on how those players are related to the charges you've brought out to the case overall?
I'm glad you put your finger on that, because it's not just about one payment. It is 34 business records, 34 false statements in business records that were concealing criminal conduct. And the earlier question about New York State election law, when I talk about conspiracy to promote a candidacy by unlawful means, those unlawful means we allege include the conduct set forth in the statement of facts, which is additional false statements separate and apart from the charged ones in AMI documents, planned false statements to taxing authorities. It is not just that one $130,000 wire payment. Thanks so much.
This fucking piece of shit.
At what point do you think that order is necessary?
All right, Evelyn Bragg laying out his case that this is different than the case that was rejected by Cyrus Vance, the district.
I don't want to hear anything else you fucks have to say. So just disgusting, dude. Disgusted to watch this play out. And we're not a serious country at all. We're not a serious country. This man basically came out and put his opening statements out there. and it's the most, like, one of the most disgusting things I've seen in a long time. So I can't even process how bad. Like, so the next hearing is in December. They essentially, they are trying to carry this all the way through this year and then have it overlap into 2024 so it can be a complete distraction for Donald Trump so that he can essentially run for president. But hanging over his head is that he has this criminal investigation that he's been arrested for and indicted for, and that's the whole point behind all of this. That's what they want to do, and that's what they're going to go for. And I believe it will backfire. But the point is they want to drag this out. That is what they want to do. Fuck these people. Let's see. We got Tommy H says, where would you recommend we watch for news? I didn't recommend anywhere. If you want my recommendation, I don't think that there's one specific source that you can count on. I think there's a lot of different, like, I find a lot of different content creators and independent creators. I mean, look, as much as I have problems with Tim Pool, I think Tim Pool does put on a great show. I don't like his takes, but I like a lot of the guests he has on and a lot of the discussions that they have, because while I don't agree with a lot of them, it's still a good forum for good discussion. I'm a huge fan of Benny Johnson. Obviously, I know Benny Johnson. I watch Benny. But there's a lot of different people that I gather information from. And then I take all that information and I'm able to make my own opinion based on the information I'm gathering from a lot of different sources. But if you're asking for like one particular source, much like anything else, like, I'm never going to put all of my beliefs behind the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or any political ideology. I'm not going to put all of my faith into one news organization either. I find a lot of different individuals that I compile on, and then I'm able to gather that information. So that's how I do it. The Ginger Hitman says, Brother Osteen, can we get a sermon on today's events? Preach, brother. Preach, brother. Jeremy Osteen, D-Day Osteen, Cobra Osteen in the house. Cobra Osteen loves all your super chats, all your gifted memberships. He loves them. He needs a new private jet. He wants a private jet like Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a nice jet, and Jeremy Osteen would love one of those. Wamen. Kevin Cron, I will walk over hot coals now to vote for Trump. Hell yes. Prairie Farm Girl, welcome to the snake pit, becomes a new member. The Drunken Sailor, as a man that served this once great country, this is very sad, and everyone, so be afraid of what's coming. Love you, bro. Right back at you, man. Thank you so much. Let's see. Ray Drake says, can we stop pretending that any of this is legitimate? The government is an illegitimate entity run by criminals, period. Absolutely. Colleen Guerrera, $20. My entire street is flying Trump and Gadsden flags. Such a beautiful sight. As a 30-year Navy veteran, I am certain this Marxism isn't what my brother died for in Afghanistan, nor my grandfather. Well, nothing but respect to you and your family. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. The Drunken Wedding Photographer retracted a $1.35 super chat, but I still appreciate it. Nonpartisan Media. Sorry, did I miss when New York went after Hillary Clinton for her campaign finance crimes she was found guilty of last week? Nope. Chef Nick Nero, just because you and Gary are my first two YouTube channels I sub to. Cobra for life. Thank you so much. Twilight 79, New York statute of limitations on this class E felony is 5 years. The statute is gone. There is no case here. None whatsoever. This is just a circus. Stephen Wasik for 20. DeSantis could have stopped this or at least made it very hard. The fact that he didn't speaks volumes and will cost him in Florida, but also nationwide. For shame, Ron. This is an absolute crock of crap. Agreed 100%. I've lost so much faith in Ron DeSantis, sadly, but here we are. Guys, this was a banger. I appreciate it. I will be live on Tuesday night's main event on the Main Geeks and Gamers channel, so make sure you guys are tuned in for that tonight. We have a huge show for you. And then I will probably go live again tonight here on this channel to talk about Donald Trump's speech tonight. It's been a busy day, but I appreciate all of you so much. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving me your time. I know there was a lot of people live right now. There's a lot of options, and 3,000 you strong were here. And I greatly appreciate that. That means the world to me. So thank you. You could have been on any other channel and you were here. And I will always be appreciative of that. So I hope you guys have a great day. Stand by Trump because, he's the man and they are going after him for a reason. So for everybody in the chat, thank you. Thank you to all the new members. Thank you for all of the support. See you on Tuesday night's main event tonight at 8 Eastern on the main Geeks and Gamers channel. Big guest tonight, and it's going to be awesome. I'll talk to all of you later. Bye, everyone. Oh, I forgot. Never mind. Hang on. I promised somebody something earlier, so hang on. I promised you guys an outro, so I'm going to give you your outro because I don't forget. Well, sometimes I forget, but if I remember, I'm a man of my word. So I couldn't leave without doing this. So let me find it right now. The tweet from Benny Johnson the other day with the Avengers. Here we go. So give me just a minute. Let me see if I can find it. Again, it disappears from my bookmarks. I don't understand why these things disappear from my bookmarks. But I need to download this. So here we go. This is what's going on right now, and it's beautiful to see. It's a beautiful sight to see. Shout out to Benny Johnson and the Benny Johnson Show. I saw my boy Adam Krigler in the chat as I was saying my goodbyes. Where did that go? He could have gotten copyrighted for it, to be honest. Knowing how they are. I think that, you know what? I got hit for that yesterday too. So I think that Benny Johnson clip is gone. That's why it's not in my bookmarks, maybe. Let's see. Oh, here it is. I got it. So here's how we're going to close the show, ladies and gentlemen. And I appreciate all of you. Have a good night. And we will talk to all of you later on Tuesday night's main event. Good night, everyone. Here we go.
On your left.
I sure am hungry. So regardless, I think he's a great fighter.